It's now time for The Sit Down with Don Tony.
The Sit Down, where Don Tony talks one-on-one with his followers.
What are you looking at?
About the world of pro wrestling, pop culture, and so much more.
The Sit Down with Don Tony.
And now, your host, Don Tony.
Does anything interesting go down this weekend? Hey, what's up, everybody? How you doing? I'm not loud. I'm just Italian. It is Sunday night, April 26th. Wow, April's already over. We're already 1/3 done with the year. 1/3. That's crazy when you think about it. Welcome, everyone. It is Sunday, as I said, about 8:05 p.m. Eastern in New York. It's only about 55 degrees, but I got the air conditioner on because the lights are hot in here. We have an interesting one to get into. 24 releases. WWE released 24, and there may be a couple on the way. Not necessarily WWE releases, but a few people that may have willingly asked for their release. We're going to talk about each and every one of them that we know of. We're not going to spend much time on the LFGers or the NXT. Actually, I will talk a little bit about some NXTers. We'll talk about the releases. We're also going to talk realistically where they should go next. Now, remember, since 1997, my primary goal of doing what I do here is opining. Opinions, analysis, discussion, my thoughts, your thoughts, we share it. We also get into news, obviously. It's not only my job to relay news over to you, but to sift out the bullshit. That is not very easy. If you notice, just look around, you see a lot of cut and paste that always seems to make a lot of people's shows not here. But we're going to talk about every single release. We're also going to discuss where realistically we think some of them should go. And not only that, a topic that I don't like covering, but, you know, for my longtime DTKCers out there, Kev, we're thinking about you. We used to discuss back in the day who we think escaped the chopping block. All right, that doesn't mean that we want to see some people released. I think it's only fair that we discuss some names that we're shocked were not released. You know, back in the day, you get somebody like Baron Corbin. Baron Corbin would get his panties in a bunch when you would talk like that. I remember one time, listen, I don't talk to the wrestling suit guys anymore, but I remember many years ago, WWE had a bunch of cuts, and Kevin and I covered it, and Joey Numbers and Mish covered it. And I remember specifically both of our shows talking about how we were shocked that Baron Corbin wasn't on the list. And we gave reasons why. And this guy went ahead, and I know he went after Joey Numbers first because Joey was a referee in wrestling at the time. He posted a picture of, I think, his Ferrari with the keys, as if we're supposed to be jealous. Baron Corbin, you dumb, well, this is many years ago. I can't criticize him now like I used to. But where I live, if you have a Ferrari, that son of a bitch is going to be keyed up every single day. You don't buy Ferraris where we live. Maybe if, you know, in a different area, sure. But trying to like rub it on our face. Then you would have others that we would say, you know, kind of surprised this person didn't make the cuts, like Dana Brooke. And somebody like Dana Brooke would turn it into a positive, an incentive. Wow, you know, there are people out there that really think that I should be let go. Maybe I need to amp up my game a little bit. And as much as we used to criticize Dana Brooke, give her credit that she took the criticism and did what she could to try to make it better. Now, unfortunately, and I'm not saying with her, but with some people, unfortunately, you could work hard. You could be in the batting cage 10 hours a day. You could sit on the basketball court 8 hours a day and just throw free throws all day long. doesn't make you a good baseball player, doesn't automatically make you a good basketball player. There are just some people out there that try and try and try and try, and it just doesn't cut it for whatever reason. Timing, charisma, just a lot of different aspects of it. So I think we got to go a little old school, and we got to start throwing out some names that I personally think should be thinking about their future outside of WWE. And obviously for everyone who is live, definitely interject later on when we get that conversation. For everyone on the replay, post it in the comments, share. Because not only will I see, but everybody else will see it. I mean, who in your opinion do you think should have been on the chopping block? Doesn't mean you're rooting for that person's release, but you just kind of sit back in amazement like, wow, I'm surprised this person still has a job. By the way, we got a double espresso, actually a double lungo. I drank half of it already, so I want to try to keep this going for a good 90 minutes or 2 hours today. I think we got enough stuff to get into. But yeah, I mean, without further ado, I scrambled to make this banner. Tomorrow after Raw, when we do our weekly episode of the Don Tony Show, I will look back a year ago, and we got to go 2 years ago, simply because of Cameron Grimes. I don't laugh at him crying. I felt bad for him at that time. But I remember when he cried on that video and he's like, I'm going to show that WWE made a drastic mistake in this and that. The guy just signed with MLW like 3 weeks ago. And you look at him from 2 years ago to now, and he did nothing. He did nothing to reinvent himself. You would have thought maybe he grew his hair back on his chest so much that you would have to put maybe dreads. Maybe you literally, I mean, thought that he would have done something outrageous. He literally did nothing. He did nothing. So I saw a super chat right before we went live. Someone asked, who do I think is going to make the most impact following this release? And who is going to end up like the Rick Boogs? Let's be honest. You remember Rick Boogs? There are some people that when they're done, they're done. They're done. And some wrestlers on this list, you might be a little bit surprised of what I'm about to say, because some of these wrestlers, I got to be honest with you. I mean, I'll say this right at the opening, and I know this is unfair, and he's such a good guy. I really mean that from the bottom of my heart. I don't criticize the man at all. And his work ethic is there. His mind for wrestling is there. But any of you think, let's see if you guys could figure out who on that list that I'm talking about. Who do you see this release and you say to yourself, you know what? Maybe now you got to start looking in the mirror and think that just maybe my character is not working. Let's see. Brian says Alistair Black. 905 says Bo Dallas. 2 says Andre Chase. Andre Chase should be very, very happy at his career. All right, Bloody Money Scorpio. All right, I'll open up with this person just randomly. Alistair Black. Malachi Black. I mean, I remember the days when he had his first WWE run, and he was in the dark hotel room. Fight me. Fight me. And Kevin and I used to laugh. He'd be like, you done, Polak? If you want to fight someone, you don't stay locked up in a hotel with the lights off. You fucking open the door and you walk down the street and boom. Don't really want, but I'm saying in wrestling, you provoke. You want to fight so bad, you're in wrestling, you don't stay in a hotel room with the lights up. Now, obviously that wasn't his fault. It's WWE creative. Then we're going to put a camera, we're going to put a webcam in. No, of course it's not his fault. But now we've seen Malachi Black do a spectacular job in NXT. Had a decent run early on in the main roster, but obviously pandemic screwed some of that up. Goes to AEW, still my favorite moment in his entire AEW run is when he showed up and nailed Cody. And that's, I think, where the problem lies. I think that's where the problem lies. The guy is talented as fuck. He's intimidating. But I don't care how many tattoos you have. I don't care if you have contact lenses. I don't care if you have piercings where I wouldn't dare even like scratch. All right. Maybe all of that, it's kind of like buying something in a store that the label looks really good and the font looks really, really good. And even the screenshot of the food on the label looks really, really good. Everything about it looks really, really good. But then you open it up and then you realize there's going to be a YouTube channel that's going to do an episode in the future, the top 15 things that nobody eats anymore. Is Malachi Black, Alistair Black, a character that's just not for today? Or is it something that it was destined to be in front of a small audience? And trust me, my friends, there are wrestlers out there that you saw in NXT, you saw in AEW, you even saw in the Indies. And no matter how much you fantasize that wrestler fighting someone else, some people are destined to be an indie wrestler, destined to be in front of a small audience. And I start to think to myself, you know, of course, WWE Creative did a lot of these wrestlers dirty. The Wyatt Six, I mean, check this out. See this poster? See this poster? Yeah, here you go. See this poster? I actually have on order, I ordered it 10 days ago, a smaller version of this so I could put it right over there. Obviously, it doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't matter anymore, right? Now, the only reason why I'm tearing this up is because I wasn't going to put it on the wall anyway. It's too big. When I get the smaller one, I'll still put it on the wall. So I probably wasn't going to use this anyway. So this is not me suddenly giving up on those guys. But WWE, man, did they do the Wyatt Six dirty? It's kind of amazing to look back on it. The best way I could describe it is not WWE shit the bed. And instead of cleaning up the sheets, they did the dishes. That's the best way I could describe some of these wrestlers. You shit the bed so often with these wrestlers, and instead of cleaning the sheets and trying to figure out how do we stop shitting the bed, you go and do the dishes thinking that the dishes is the answer. Yeah, I wrote on X sarcastically, hey, TKO, now fire the creative people that can't fucking put half the people over. Of course that's not happening. And some people realize that I wasn't saying that for thousands of likes, but the point is you do need to realize that when you are in charge, what you say goes. And when you are an employee, I sound like Vince Russo right now. I sound like Vince, right? When you are an employee, when you're an employee, you could look around your environment. You could be in an office environment and see waste upon waste. You could see, you know, just too much excess. And you say to myself, wow, you know, we got some financial problems right now. I would do this, I would do this, I would do this. Why do we need 3 people doing these 3 jobs when only one person could do all 3? You could turn around and spot a ton of things wrong, but because you're the employee, unless there's a suggestion box where you can anonymously give opinions, there's nothing you could say or do that is going to change it. And if you speak out a little bit too much, you're probably going to be out of a job. All right. But with Alistair Black, with Alistair Black and Malachi Black, obviously what they did to him and Zelina Vega after Cross and Scarlett were released, I think was kind of the death nail, if we're being honest. I mean, no joke, this is God honest truth. When the releases started on Friday, I got a text message from someone, and somebody that texted me said, hey, Cross and Scarlett got released again. And I looked at it and I thought, okay, this is probably like a year too late to send me this. And I wrote back question marks. And they said, Cross and Scarlett got released again from WWE, and then it hit me. I was like, oh, okay, Alistair Black and Zelina. Because remember, it felt like, okay, we don't want Scarlett anymore. If we could get Kairi and Cross a little bit on the cheap, then we'll keep him. But if we can't, then we'll put Alistair Black and Zelina in their roles. And obviously it didn't work. It really didn't work. And that's a stigma that WWE Creative didn't do nothing to change it. They didn't do nothing to change it. And unfortunately, not to jump back and forth, but I got to say this too. You look amongst everybody who was released on Friday, the one person that I can honestly say to you that I was surprised was let go right now. But if you heard the prediction show with myself and Joey 924, you heard us discuss Kyrie Sane. And we were talking about the idea of Io Sky versus Asuka at WrestleMania. And what do you do with Kyrie Sane? And I said, there's at least 3 shows in the last 2.5 weeks you've heard me say this. And when I say this now, you'll remember it. I said, maybe they'll do Kyrie Sane as a referee, but I don't like that idea, because then if they do the storyline where Kyrie Sane breaks away from Asuka, I'm not going to take the assault anymore. You're not going to bully me anymore. You're not going to yell at me anymore. What did I say across the last almost 3 weeks? I said that'll be the death knell for Kyrie Sane, because WWE has never convinced me that they can push her as a single star. I said that at least 3 times over the last 2.5 plus weeks. They have never showed me that Kyrie Sane could be pushed as a single star. NXT, to an extent. NXT, small audience. NXT, not the moneymaker. These people are signed to become big WWE superstars. If Kyrie Sane wants to make 60 grand, and stay on NXT for a couple of years, I'm sure they could probably oblige. But of all the people that I am very surprised of, it's Kyrie Sane more than anything else. But here's a little reality check, and I applaud everyone out there who cared that much about Kyrie Sane. This is not a case where, you should have been more loud before she got released. No, the fans have always showed their love for Kyrie Sane. That is not in dispute. But what a lot of people, I saw AEW neckbeards bring to our attention today, which is disturbing. One fan who has retweeted something about Kyrie Sane, love for her, over 150 times. That's weird territory. All right. The point is, when we did We Want Cross last year, it didn't do a damn thing. WWE knew damn well that Kyrie Sane is one of the most beloved women's wrestlers on that roster. This is not an R-Truth situation. This is a case where they knew there would be extreme backlash online. And this is a case where they're not going to do a damn thing about it. People in droves could speak and yell and all this other stuff. They're not going to do a damn thing about it. So express your frustration, obviously. Let WWE know that they fucked up. Let TKO know that they fucked up. Now, personally, I don't think Nick Khan, Ari Emanuel, Mark Shapiro, in any way, shape, or form, told WWE, let Kyrie Sane go. She's been on TV. She's been working. She's been having matches. She's been working her ass off. There's obviously a dollar amount that TKO tells WWE that this is what we want to cut. This is what we want to take off the books and in favor bring some NXT stars. And it's up to Triple H and WWE to figure out who is on the chopping block. And they felt that Kyrie Sane is one of them. Remember what Mark Shapiro said in, I think it was University of Alabama last week. Now, I didn't make a news story about it on my shows because you and I have been talking about Mark Shapiro for a year and a half. We have played numerous clips. This clip that went viral that a lot of podcasts covered of him saying, celebrities or blah, 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 blah. It's been talked about already. That's nothing new. It's just that people that are now putting Mark Shapiro under a microscope because they think that they're in charge of the storylines or they have the final say. That's the only reason why suddenly this has become an issue. Welcome to 2025. It's really how I look at it. But I'll say this. Mark Shapiro said out loud what we all knew already. In wrestling, especially the TKO version of WWE, you're going to lose some fans and you're trying to gain others. When WWE went attitude in the mid-90s, they lost a lot of kids. They lost a lot of families that absolutely would not let their kids watch WWE programming. Trust me. I remember Mick Foley and others when their kids were much younger back then. I would not dare let my kids watch WWE. Parents Teacher Council. You had organizations going after WWE. They sacrificed the very, very young viewers in favor of the teenagers, college students, even older, with the attitude, with the over-the-top stuff, with the vulgarity, with the sexual stuff. And that was a sign of the times. I mean, was it a mistake? No, it wasn't. It was a sign of the times. But the thing is that in order to grow, sometimes you sacrifice a group of people to try to get others. Not saying it's right or it's wrong, but where WWE, I think, is royally fucking up is, you see Lil Yachty. Somebody super chat me earlier, say something nice about Lil Yachty. All right, I'll answer that a little bit later. But you see Lil Yachty? I don't think wrestling fans hate Lil Yachty. I saw what he did on SmackDown. I really didn't have an issue with it. If that's my way of giving him a compliment, then I'll say that nice about him. But a lot of people perceive that as you're letting WWE wrestlers go that are not doing anything wrong right now, that the fans really enjoy watching, and you're taking that money and you're spending it on a rapper. That's the problem. So where Mark Shapiro says, listen, we're going to have some celebrities. We may lose some wrestling fans as a result, but we hope to gain this. The magic word is hope, because you have established fans already committed to your product. Committed, may not spend the money that you want them to spend yet, but you have people already watching your product, already subscribing to some platforms. And instead of making that stronger to the point that, okay, if I do release someone that they like, if I do sign a celebrity, all right, it's not very good, but you know what? How can we complain about other stuff? If Lil Yachty was brought in during the peak of the bloodline, nobody really would have made a big deal about it. And trust me, some popular wrestlers were released at that time as well. I don't have all the list in front of me, but, people have been released before. But it's the perception of it. And why would you want a negative vibe go viral amongst your established audience? What happens if the hip hop demographic, it's not like they woke up yesterday and realized, holy shit, what's this thing called wrestling? What is this thing that Travis Scott is involved with now? What is the thing that Little Yachty, what is the thing that Cameron, whatever these people know what wrestling is. If they wanted to watch it, they probably already would be watching it. And if they tune in just to see their celebrity do something, and then they turn it off right after, which customer would you rather have? Would you rather have the customer that is watching, chances are, the whole show, or someone that's just going to watch a segment? And that's the problem that's happening right now. We have taken notice very recently, going back to when Cody first returned to the WWE, leaving AEW. We were very conscious of what those ratings were and were not going to be. And within 2 weeks, the ratings were where they were before. Go Home Raw into WrestleMania was the same rating it was 6 weeks ago, 2 months ago, 3 months ago. And that's what Brock Lesnar being on TV 6 straight weeks. That's where Roman Reigns being on TV 5 out of the last 6 weeks. What does that tell you? That tells you is that there's no magic person out there, that's going to consistently bring in more wrestlers. Even when you do a YouTube channel, all right, there's nothing that I could do. I could flash my tits right now. There's nothing I can do that is going to suddenly have an insane spike of viewership unless I do something out of the ordinary that is not a permanent thing, or just something like you're not going to get this gigantic audience that, wow, I had no idea that he was doing this stuff. I had no idea that he was back. I never saw the show. You'll have some people, but the idea is you want to build, you want to increase that foundation, and just slowly, you build it. And as you keep working at it, the loyalty is there. The work ethic is there. You don't want people for that surge. It's nice to see how many additional people watched the WrestleMania review that we did last week. That was 4.5 hours long. It was awesome. But how many of them came back after that event? You see what I'm saying? So to see some of these people released, and you see Lil Yachty is taking the bullets for some of these wrestlers being released. And I'll say that as a compliment to him. I think him with Trick Williams is fine. I think Trick Williams, that aura, his music, everything about him, I'd rather have, to be honest with Lil Yachty, than a football guy. You understand what I'm saying? So if you're going to put somebody with Trick Williams for now, that's not a real bad decision. Plus, I think Trick Williams is enjoying it. I don't think Trick Williams is rolling his eyes like, all right, whatever. I'm getting this opportunity. I ain't going to fucking complain about it. I think he's really enjoying it. So this is why people are so upset right now. And you see some of these wrestlers being released, and some of them definitely, probably did not help their own way. I think Santos Escobar is a perfect example of that. I don't care what injury Santos, and if anybody follows my shows, always been a huge fan of that guy. Let's get into, you know what? Before we get into Santos Escobar, let me just quickly run down some of the NXT LFG releases. I want to make this clear right at the beginning. Yes, I know season 1 of LFG winner, Tyra May Steele, she's gone. All right, fine. But the point is, with the exception of her, everybody that was let go are in their 20s. Okay. Somebody like Trill London, I don't know if he's going to continue following wrestling. That was the guy that was on the Miami Dolphins that, tried to make it as a wrestler. And he's only, I did some notes, he's 26 years old. He got let go. I got to give a shout out of this genius website that we always make fun of, Wrestle Talk. Got to love this one. Their prediction, who their first choice is, they think that should replace Javon Evans in NXT. Their choice was Trill London. And I'm going to say this, I don't care if it's controversial or not. I've seen Trill London and see what he could do. And I've seen Javon Evans and I could see what he could do. And I look at this and I can't help but to keep saying to myself, why? Because he's got similar hair. He looks urban. We're going to take a little shot at Kevin Nash. Why? Because they're both black. Why? Because they look similar. This was their first choice. And you look at Trill London and where he's at on the food chain in wrestling, which is not, it's unfair to him. Guy has not been wrestling all that much. All right. That's a guy that I almost feel like did a little bit, had an experience, and it's not developing as well as it should. And I'm not saying that he's not going to keep going. I hope that he does. I hope that he does. The one person, and I keep saying this, the one person that I always thought would leave wrestling, that I not in a million years ever thought he would not only double down, but would shut up people so hard, that's AJ Francis. When AJ Francis left WWE, I thought that guy is done. Fucking football podcasts, doing hip hop shit. You know, that guy is, it ain't no way the wrestling bug is going to bite him and he's going to want to drive hundreds of miles and sleeping in hotels and doing all this stuff. That's a guy that's going to go on fucking podcasts, be a regular in the Breakfast Club. Like there's no, and that guy shut everybody, including me, up. AJ Francis, I'm like, still I see him work now and I'm like, that guy deserves a shitload of credit. How committed he came to wrestling. Even if you don't like him still, you got to credit that guy for really being committed for it. But Trill London, that's someone that I don't know. I mean, you know, he's only 26, but I think his future might be a little bit in doubt. Serena Linton, LFG, 23 years old. Okay, you got your, this is how I look at it. I look at Serena Linton. I look at Chris Island, who's also an LFG. I look at those two. You got your feet wet. You tried LFG, got a little WWE exposure off of it. Did not end up the way that you thought it was going to end up, but you know what? That's still not bad. Go on the indies now, build your craft, show that you have something special, and there's no reason why you can't be brought back. That's not the end of the line for them. Tyra May Steele, 33 years old. Former Olympic gold medalist. That's someone that I look at and I say to myself, I don't know how much the wrestling bug is bitter. This might be an experience, loved it, and I'm not doing the indie grind. I don't know. I'm just giving opinions. That's what we do here. But I think her future might be somewhat questionable. It doesn't mean that she ain't going to work indies, 30 days from now. Because I think NXT releases at 30 days. LFG might be as well. Tyrick Eway and Malik Blade. Look, Malik Blade has been there for 5 years. Tyrick Eway has been there for at least 3. Believe it or not, Tyrick Eway is from my neck of the woods. Actually used to live about 15 minutes away from where I live. All right. Those two, I think, will get plenty of work in the indie circuit. They are great to have on indie shows. Could they end up in Ring of Honor? Sure. Could you possibly see them in TNA? Maybe. But I think right now, indies would be good enough for them. Malik is only 28, and Tyrick Eway is 32. So he actually is the other one that's over 30. But still, 32, still very young to still do it. That leaves us Tyson DuPont, who is 28, fairly new still, and Luca Crucifino. Luca Crucifino, I think we all agree. Once Tony D, hey, how you doing? The hell with the Italian stuff. That shit ain't gonna make it on the main roster. That fucking drinking a cappuccino and going like this. Hey, that's bullshit. I've said since day one that I never thought the D'Angelo family would make it to the main roster. This is not the Mamalukes. This is not the full-blooded Italians. Unless, you've heard me say this before, unless Jersey Shore had a reunion or they had the new squad, and you had all these freaking greaseball, wannabes, and suddenly it catches on and Jersey Shore is now a thing again. If Growing Up Gotti would have been happening now instead of 15 years ago, yeah, I could see the D'Angelo family, but there was no way Stacks. There was no way Two Dimes. There was no way Luca Crucifino was going to make it to the main roster as the D'Angelo family. That's why you see Tony D'Angelo. This is make or break for Tony D'Angelo. This is make or break. NXT champion right now, fine. No issues. Guy worked his ass off. 1 year from now, it's going to be really interesting to see what is going on with Tony D'Angelo, because the Italian thing is no longer. All right. Now it's kind of like Bruiser Brody meets the Berserker, with his look. And he's angry. He's intense. He's determined. But that's not necessarily a gimmick that is going to click with the main roster. Just being intense, yeah, you could talk, but you have to eliminate years and years of a stereotype gimmick. And that's not easy to do. And he is one of the longest tenured wrestlers now on that company. So you see a year from now, it's going to be really interesting to see what goes on with Tony D'Angelo. But Luca Crucifino, I think the writing was on the wall. But he's 25. He's 25. He definitely has time to tweak up his character. If he could link up with a couple of other Italianos, and no, this is not like me making a hint like, hey, if you need a manager, hey, how you doing? Yeah, let's talk about it over coffee. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that he's got to look in the mirror and say, do I continue this Italian thing? Do I reinvent myself? What do I do? What do I need to do? And hopefully this is something that they've talked about before. So those were your LFG and NXT releases, okay? So now we get to the main ones. By the way, before I go any further, I know it's off topic, but I got to do it. Before I forget, Ox King, congratulations to you, my friend. You won the predictions contest for WrestleMania. You got a 50 spot waiting for you. If you follow me on X, DM me. Just let me know how you want the 50. You could have a WWE, AEW Pro Wrestling Tees gift card. You could have a PayPal, Amazon gift card, $50. Him and Dayhawk tied, but Ox won the tiebreaker. He was closer with his prediction of the match time between Brock Lesnar and Obafemi. So just wanted to mention. And Dave Samaska, I think his name was, I always forget your last name, Dave. He reached out to me on Patreon. So he won the Patreon predictions contest. So I'm going to hook you up after I do the show tonight. So, all right, let's get into the main stars. The first person that I want to just get out of the way is Santos Escobar. Santos Escobar is a very interesting release because he still has an injury and he's going to be out for a while. But any of you out there see that little graphic that Lucha Underground put on X? Did anybody see that? I hope most of you have seen that. Lucha Underground is teasing that maybe we want more of Lucha Underground. And I immediately say to myself, Santos Escobar absolutely could do it. Also, I think there is a possibility that Santos Escobar could, after his injury is done, re-sign, not necessarily with WWE, but maybe work out a deal with AAA. Maybe he could work out a deal with AAA. There are wrestlers that are in AAA, that their contract structure is AAA. The problem with Santos Escobar, and this is something that a lot of people need to really understand, is you got to really do a little research as far as the income of what Mexican Lucha Libre stars make versus the WWE roster. And the thing is I don't know where Santos Escobar lives, but I could tell you that if he still lived in Mexico and still, had the finances in Mexico, I could possibly see him doing that. But when you turn around and you leave the American contract and the amount of money that WWE pays on the main roster, and you go back to Mexico, all right, if he thought that he would make even half of what he was making in WWE, then that might be possible. He'd be one of the highest paid wrestlers on the AAA roster. The money is not there. I bring up, you hear about CMLL doing kick-ass work with their shows. 10,000, 15,000 seats sold. AAA, 10,000 seats sold. But what do they both have in common? Go look up ticket prices. Go look at ticket prices. You could get floor seats for $20, $25. I mean, there's no, there's no magical money mark that is absorbing all the loss. The money being made in Lucha Libre is dramatically less than what is made in the United States. And WWE is a United States promotion at the end of the day. So Santos Escobar, although it would be pretty interesting if he were to return to Lucha Underground down the line, that's not going to be enough money for him to make money. He is one of the few people that I think could possibly come back to WWE in the future, start with AAA and work his way back, because the guy is extremely talented. But that last match that he had in AAA, that it looked like he was laughing and no-selling, that's inexcusable. And I don't care if his opponent farted. I don't care if his opponent went in the corner and he's putting the movie up and he just started laughing, or that person told him a joke like, hey, did you hear about and he just started laughing. For all of us watching it, it looked unprofessional. And Santos Escobar, I'm sorry to say this, it just feels like even some of his work in AAA, it just felt like someone, not that he didn't give a shit anymore, but this is someone that's like, yeah, whatever, I got to do what I got to do. And Santos Escobar, I don't know, what his future will be. Should he go to AEW? Of course I could see him doing stuff with Andrade, and, AEW has increased their game in the Latino market. Got to look up the TV deals that AEW has inked in the Latino market. They do special shows. I think ESPN, no, not ESPN. I don't know if it's Fox, Latino, whatever it is, but he definitely could do something there. But the problem is right now he's injured. So it ain't happening. It ain't happening. But he could obviously have enough where he can make a very good salary for Tony Khan and work far less than he had to do in WWE. He would work CMLL, obviously, do some AEW stuff. I saw people immediately today. Tony Khan should resist. Tony Khan should resist all the releases. Thank you. There's a reason why on your LinkedIn, it's just a blank page. I don't take business advice from people out there. That their claim to fame is, I got 5 million views on TikTok. Good for you. That doesn't mean that Tony Khan should ignore all the releases. If someone could be a fit and could be money, I would sign them. All right. Just because their roster is loaded, that doesn't mean that Tony Khan doesn't let go. How dare you say that? Tony Khan doesn't release nobody. No, there's some people out there that, you got to kind of turn it over a little bit. So, believe it or not, I think Santos Escobar is one of the very few that I would say maybe AEW down the line. Or if he really wants his way back with WWE. But, that's what's going on. Apollo Crews, man. Apollo Crews, that guy's been there for 12 years. And if we're being honest, we were kind of surprised that he escaped so many cuts. He's talented. He's tremendous at what he does. The problem is in 2026, so is everybody else. If we're being honest, who wrestles like shit in WWE? If we're being honest, who wrestles like shit? And don't tell me Danhausen, because Danhausen, it's a comedy show. Nobody wrestles like shit. For Apollo Crews, Ooh-Ah Nation, whatever they used to call it, 10 years ago, stood out even more. Without a doubt, stood out even more. 2026, when everybody's doing flips from a fucking mountain, and I know I'm exaggerating, unfortunately, his shtick doesn't stand out like it used to. And him, that is someone that I could see working indies. That is someone I could see MLW. I could possibly even see TNA to an extent. But that is someone that is not going to suddenly main event. He's not going to suddenly main event unless it's for an indie promotion somewhere. That is someone who I hope saved his WWE money, ended up having many, many more years than I thought that he would. But, just because he can work doesn't mean that you sign him for big money and put him at the top of a roster. That is not someone that I think is going to command. Indie circuit, sure. You have him work, people regionally? Sure, absolutely. I don't think going to Japan is the answer. TNA, possibly, but I don't see it with Apollo Crews. I'm just being honest with you. Alistair Black and Zelina Vega. Zelina Vega, the problem with Zelina Vega is not her size anymore. I remember when she first came in, mostly doing valet stuff and everything. I'll always remember Backlash. But unfortunately, WWE doesn't go to have shows in Puerto Rico every single week or even every single month. That was the pinnacle of her WWE career. The problem with Zelina Vega is, I always joked about this early on. Remember when she was Queen Zelina? She had the intro that Charlotte Flair has. All hail Queen Zelina. Then all of a sudden, all hail the Queen. Charlotte. It just felt like a ripoff. Like, okay, they took that from Zelina and they gave it to Charlotte. Of course, Charlotte Flair is the Queen because of her background and her, her career. But Zelina Vega has always been that underdog. The underdog you root for, the one who actually could work, but the one more times than not comes up short. It's the same way I look at Michin to an extent. BFAB has not been wrestling enough years for me to feel that same way, but there are some women that you look at them and you say, I like them, great personality, great attitude, works well, but unfortunately, WWE has always utilized her like the underdog. All right, when she was in LWO, it was nice and everything, but, that was only going to go so far. So Zelina Vega, in my honest opinion, WWE is more at fault for not using her more to showcase really what she can do. And then, like I said, once they let go of Karrion Kross and Scarlett, and then suddenly you got, Alistair Black and Zelina doing this thing, everybody's like, holy shit, it's a ripoff of Kross and Scarlett. What the fuck? And people started getting upset at Zelina and Alistair Black. It wasn't their fault. It wasn't like they went to WWE Creative and said, oh, we could do what Kross and Scarlett better. Give us a chance. Let us show how it's done. Let me show you how it's done. That's not the case. And that gimmick was never going to get over. I don't care what male-female duo they were going to feud with. It was never going to get over because people were always going to be bitter like, wow, you let go the guy that everybody wanted for the most part to see go to the next level. In favor, you give it to someone else. So it wasn't really the gimmick that you had a problem with. It's the person who was behind it. Zelina Vega, I think, will do fine. She is very professional, very well liked. I don't think Gabrielle Gutierrez, is that her name? Who's remember the actress? I had a real positive conversation with Zelina today. I think we could do something. Yeah, okay. Is that her name, Gabrielle Gutierrez? Remember her and Andrew Yang when Zelina Vega got let go the first time because of social media? Like, oh yeah, we're gonna do this. Bullshit. You were gonna do nothing. You were gonna do nothing. This time around, you can't say that they didn't give her an opportunity, but WWE Creative didn't, in my opinion, never really treated Zelina Once Puerto Rico came and went, you would have thought, okay, that's where you kind of build on this a little bit more. I think in a lot of ways, you just didn't give a shit. I remember she was supposed to work the garden on 9/11, and she lost a father on 9/11. And at the last minute, they're like, no, we're not going to have you work the show. I mean, that's just, it's personal. It's just, they don't give a shit. And I think Zelina will have a better job. Yes, I see it already. Abso-fucking-lutely. Alistair Black and Zelina versus Cross and Scarlett. Some indie promotion out there, GCW, House of Glory. If you're watching this, you got to book that shit. Cross and Scarlett versus Tommy End and whatever names they're going to use. Alistair Black and Zelina Vega. That's what I would do. And then guess what? You could do that in MLW. You could have fucking Alistair Black feud with Cross. You could kind of segue, and guess what? I think fans would buy into it. I just personally feel Alistair Black might be one of those that is more suited to perform in front of 1,000 fans. Guy is good at what he does. Guy's intimidating. I used to joke that, it was kind of hard for me to get past him having this intimidating gimmick about fight me. And then he's doing videos about going to arts and craft stores with Zelina. Like, ooh, you want to buy this yarn? I'm like, remember those days we used to joke? I think he's past that. I don't know if a return to AEW is the wise thing to do. I know they did with that Andrade, and I know AEW fans would be like, House of Black was awesome. Buddy Matthews. What do you do with Buddy Matthews? Buddy Matthews is, the asterisk right now. That guy is still out. And I don't know if his career will ever be back. And that's horrible. Brody King is someone that there's only so many times you could tell cops to go stick it. And there's only so many times you could do what he does. To me, Brody King was at his best in the House of Black. It just worked. It was unique. All right. Where Brody King screwed up is when the Judgment Day was formed and he took a shot at the Judgment Day, which was just asinine on his part. And I actually got angrier at that than his cop remark. Because I said to myself, let somebody pull a gun on you, Brody. Let's see somebody rob you, take your car, carjack you, punch your mother in the mouth, and fucking steal all your stuff. And what are you gonna do? You're gonna call Rob Black? Hey, those guys you used on Messiah. I can't call the cops. I need the California Mafia to take these people out that fucking punch my mother in the mouth. No, you see how fast Brody King would be dialing 911. Why is my phone not working? 911. Can you imagine if he called 911 and fucking 911 blocked him? Can you imagine that? I block people on my phone, spammers. Now they try to call me. Your call cannot be completed. Can you imagine that guy calling 911? Your call cannot be completed. That'd be pretty funny. But honestly, I'd love to see the House of Black reunite in AEW. And if Buddy Matthews cannot return, find someone else who could fill that spot. Find somebody else. To me, Malachi Black is better in a group or better in the indies. That's how I look at him. I know you can't block 911. I'm saying it to be funny. You imagine if 911 blocked him. 911's, what's your emergency? Yeah, this is Brody. Click. That's not funny, but, karma. All right, so let's move on. Oh, wonderful. Oh, we forgot somebody in NXT. Dante Chen. Anybody goes back with me knows my personal views on Dante Chen. Oh, to me, it'll always be, oh boy. Oh my God, if an Asian had sex with X-Pac, the 1, 2, 3 kid, you get Dante Chen. That's really what it is. If an Asian had sex with the 1, 2, 3 kid, that's what he looks like to me. He looks like an Asian version of the Lightning Kid. And I say that jokingly. To me, Dante Chen is someone that is talented, would be always good for the indies, but never ever thought he'd be a main roster guy unless he turned into like Goofy Tozawa. Dante Chen, it just, unfortunately, that motherfucker worked in that company since 2021. You got 5 years. You got 5 years. Do not go on some bullshit podcast and rip WWE. Be very, very thankful, very grateful, and just do what you got to do. Do what you got to do. Dante Chen. You remember when, wasn't it Lexus King? We did a contest. Who would be Lexus King's first ever opponent in NXT? And I do remember it now, we did a live stream of Lexus King. We did a watch along of Lexus King's debut match. And I was on the live stream and there is video proof of it. And I said, I don't know, I think it's going to be Dante Chen. And literally fucking Dante Chen came out and I'm like, oh shit, it was Dante Chen. And yeah, the rest is history. Listen, Dante Chen, indie, maybe TNA, you know, that's the extent of it. I wouldn't even send him to Japan. All right. Motor City Machine Guns. Ooh. You know, I have a long history with Chris Sabin. I will never forget covering it in real time. Chris Sabin became the TNA World Heavyweight Champion. I have the footage. By the way, the history show will be uploaded tomorrow. It's two days late. The releases thing kind of consumed me this weekend and personal stuff. So the history show will go up tomorrow. But on the history show, we've covered Chris Sabin in the past. He won the TNA World Heavyweight Championship. He did a press conference. I don't know if it was in Colorado. He did a press conference somewhere. And I'll never forget the footage. I don't know if they had fake media there, but if it was fake media, it's even worse. He goes on a stage and he gives an inspirational speech about, I think it was a back injury, and talking about how, the doctors were telling him to never return to wrestling, and he fought and he clawed and he did everything he could, and now he's standing here, your TNA World Heavyweight Champion. And there was an awkward pause. I guess he thought, I don't have any sound effects with like crazy applause. There was no applause. He did this passionate speech and there was awkwardness for about 3 seconds. And it was like, and moving on. That to me is how I always think of Chris Sabin. Listen, the Motor City Machine Guns are one of the greatest tag teams in the last 25 years because of their longevity, because they could still go at a top level, because their fan base never left them for the most part. They not only, to me, they're kind of like, they're the, I don't want to say generic Hardys. That's not what I mean. What I mean by it is, you see the Hardys now are still a huge draw and is still larger than life. But what the Hardys do is they help bring up the stars of tomorrow. And the Motor City Machine Guns have done more for the young tag team wrestlers in WWE than anything else. Unfortunately, at this stage of the game, they are not ready to be trainers. The Motor City Machine Guns will be great wrestling trainers in the future. But right now, they're at a stage when they had their debut on SmackDown. I remember covering it, and I was very honest. Wasn't very popular, but I said, this is not going to work. Right? They don't have that charismatic connection with the young WWE fans. They look like they're 42. All right. And they come out and it's like, all right, they really don't cut that over-the-top promo that gets the WWE Universe really invigorated. Yeah, yeah. Middle-aged fans, they're like, so what? I want to see Fraxium. You know, they never clicked the way, I remember when Triple H really hyped them. Are they Hall of Famers? Yes. Yes, I'm not shitting on what they have done. I crack jokes about Chris Sabin, but realistically, those two guys are Hall of Famers. Those two guys have done insane amounts for wrestling. But at 42 years old on the main WWE roster, I don't care what kind of entrance music you have. I don't care how you go out to the ring and you cut a promo and people don't really, they're not energized. They were never energized to that level. Do they wrestle great? Sure. So does everybody else. So does everybody else. In this day and age, having a great match in a lot of ways is secondary. You know, fuck Meltzer ratings for a minute. You know, like, so what? You don't get 4 stars. I haven't seen anybody yet that has ever been released. Somebody turn around and says, oh, you know, they never got more than a 3.5 star rating on Meltzer. If you notice, no one ever does that. All right. They are still tremendous at what they do, but so are everyone else. And when you're 42, your best usage in WWE is to help the stars that are coming up. Help get them over. Even if you do win along the way. And yes, the Motor City Machine Guns should have been tag champs along the way. But in the end, they were never going to be these top, you know, showcase in WWE. You put them on a pay-per-view once in a while, sure, absolutely. But at this stage of the game, they just don't have that connection with the mainstream fans. There'll always be people out there that will, you know, be hardcore fans of someone. It doesn't matter who it is. I guarantee there's fucking Dante Chen fans out there that are like, Don Tony, I hope you get run over by a car. You know, every person has a hardcore following. It's just what size is it? And I think the Motor City Machine Guns should consider going back to TNA or going to AEW. Because you look at the tag team scene in AEW, there are some great tag teams, but a lot of them are put-togethers, you know, or you have a faction of 30 and you just like mix and match or whatever. The Hardys could have had a better run in AEW, but obviously with Jeff Hardy's DWI, that they never fully recovered from that. But the Motor City Machine Guns are a pair of Hall of Famers that could help a lot of the stars of tomorrow in AEW and those that are coming up. The question is, do those stars of tomorrow want to absorb the knowledge of the Motor City Machine Guns? You know that perception in AEW, like, you know, no, we don't, fuck the legends. You know, we don't need legends. Legends, we're legends, you know. Not everybody thinks that way, but I honestly think, you know, you need leaders, you need people, and they're some of the best that tag team wrestling has had in the last 20 plus years. So they would be a tremendous asset in AEW. And I think returning to TNA should be a consideration because the roster has changed. It's changed enough that the Motor City Machine Guns could get a good year and a half out of TNA. I don't think they're breaking the bank. If we look at all the releases, who do you think was the highest paid person on that list? Of all the people on this list, you look at the Wyatt Six, Zoe Stark, Andre Chase, Alba Fire, Motor City Machine Guns, Alistair Black, Apollo Crews, Zelina, Vega, Santos Escobar. Who do you think was the highest paid person? Nobody here was getting paid insane money. What they did was they got rid of contracts that were WWE level, but were not benefiting, you know, not change, you know, it wasn't enhancing the product. The product would be the same. With all of these people gone, outside of Kyrie Sane, you know, I mean, I do have some thoughts. I'm going to continue talking, But who do you think was the most expensive? Nobody there was getting overpaid. No one. If you had to ask me who was probably the highest paid wrestler, I think it would be a toss-up between Santos Escobar and Alistair Black. And I don't think Alistair Black negotiated a big money contract to come back. I don't feel that way. It is interesting that he got cut on the 1-year anniversary of his return. Because I did do the history show already. I just haven't uploaded it yet. 1 year ago, this past weekend, was the returns of Rusev and Alistair Black to WWE television. And you look at 1 year later, to the day, Alistair Black returned to WWE April 25th, 2025. Alistair Black was fired April 24th. Yeah, April 24th. So within 24 hours, 1 year anniversary, done. So we'll get to, do I think there's going to be more? We'll definitely get to it. We'll get into some super chats and some of your chat room questions in a moment. Just want to run down the rest of the list. It's not going to take me long because 5 of these people we will be talking collectively. So Motor City Machine Guns, again, I could see him possibly going back to TNA. I could see them also in AEW. And I honestly think they would be better utilized in AEW. Tommaso Ciampa is being utilized better now than he was in WWE, but I don't know how long that lasts. You know, with Tommaso Ciampa, you know what's interesting about Tommaso Ciampa? They put a belt on him as soon as he came in, and he lost it as quickly as he won it. But it almost feels like with Tommaso Ciampa that it's not about wins and losses now. It's about high-quality matches. If I'm going to be out there, I want to work 15 minutes. Even if I lose, I want to work 15 minutes. I'm just thrown out anytime. I think that's the same with the Motor City Machine Guns. I don't think it's about titles like it used to, although I think it'd be pretty fucking cool for them to hold the TNA tag titles, the WWE tag titles, and the AEW tag titles. And they've held other tag team titles as well. So giving them the tag titles in AEW for even a cup of coffee, yeah, I think that's pretty awesome. So, all right. I guess we'll save the Wyatt Six for last. Andre Chase, I should have maybe put him in the NXT department. Look, to me, ever since they let go, what was his name? Not Bo Dallas. What was the guy's name for Chase University that they let go a couple of years ago? Someone in the chat, bail me out. What was his name? Bo? What was his name? I'm drawing a brain fart right now. To me, the Chase University was never... Bodie... No, not Bodie. I almost said Sin Bodie. Bodie Hayward. That's what it was. Bodie Hayward. When they let Bodie Hayward go, Chase University was never the same. I mean, even though, you know, they changed it up a little bit, and people worked hard, but it was never the same. To me, Bodie Hayward, maybe not intentionally, but he was the artery, one of the arteries of Chase University. And doesn't mean that Andre Chase didn't do a great job. It doesn't mean that Thea Hale didn't do a great job or anybody else. But, you know, like Chase University had multiple arteries. Once you took Bodie Hayward out of it, that was it, in my honest opinion. Duke Hudson did a great job, but at the end, it felt like they were just, okay, we don't know what to do with this guy. And by the way, look at Duke Hudson, man. If we're being honest, we'll talk about it more tomorrow, but when we reflect the last 2 years, remember when he got released? He did those videos of him talking to himself. How great were those videos? What the fuck are those videos now? He had this surge of creative genius. I'm going to talk to myself and and literally, like, they just disappeared. Like, that's it? That's it? Like, shit. Andre Chase was in that company for 5 years, which feels like a lot longer. Is it just me? But I loved, outside of Bodie Hayward, I loved his Chase University work more than anybody else. When the guy would curse and they would censor it all, it was funny because he came off raunchy. He came off like if you had a conversation in real life. Like you could be like, Andre, man, I just got to tell you, I love your work in NXT. Good. I fucking love it there. You cocksucker. Like, what do you want me to sign, dickhead? Like, I could picture him cursing up a storm, just meeting him and shaking his hand. I like Andre Chase. Andre Chase will do fine on the indie circuit. If Andre Chase, I don't know if he could keep that name, but that guy could fucking kill it in TNA. That guy will kill it on the indie circuit. And I think he will make a killing on the Northeast. I think you'll see him in House of Glory. I think you'll see him in GCW. You won't see him in Bloodsport, but Andre Chase, I think, surprisingly, is going to do a hell of a lot better than a lot of people on this list. I am a big fan of Andre Chase. I don't know if it was ever destined for the main roster. I don't know if it was ever destined to the main roster, but I think his stuff, I don't know about AEW. I really don't think so. I mean, you could curse at AEW. That shit don't need to be censored. But it being censored is what made it so funny. It's what made it so funny when he was doing the classes. Shut the fuck up. I am a fan of Andre Chase. I hope he kills it outside of this. One of the ones that I really enjoyed. But I also think the writing was on the wall. I mean, how long was he going to stay in NXT? It's been 5 years. 5 years. So that leaves us Zoe Stark, Alba Fire, and the Wyatt Six. Zoe Stark, the Pure Fusion Collective. Remember that? What are you going to do? Shoot your shot? I should have put the soundbite. I'll have the soundbite ready for tomorrow. Every time when we used to hear Sonya Deville go, shoot your shot, we would play Divine. Anybody remember that club song? You got what I want. You got what I need. Shoot your shot. Oh, my God. Zoe Stark, the Pure Fusion Collective. I honestly thought she was going to be released along with her tag partners. She got injured. Only thing I could think of is her injury rehab is going a lot slower than expected, because if she's on the verge of returning, why not put her on television a couple of times and see if it clicks, or throw in NXT, see if it clicks. All right, maybe even throw in AAA for a little bit, see if it clicks. The fact that you let her heal this long and then let her go tells me that she might be a little bit further away from returning. And I think WWE at this point is like, nah, man, we thought she'd be back by now. I know it comes off fucked up that you let someone go while they're being rehabbed, but at some point you got to just be like, nah, that's it, man. So my gut feeling is her recovery is going a lot slower than expected. She is a little older, and she's not too old, obviously, but I don't know what you do with Zoe Stark. Like, I could see her work in indies. Shit. Talk about someone that would have been perfect for Bloodsport. And I'm convinced. No one will ever tell me, but I'm convinced the reason why Josh Barnett stopped Bloodsport right now is, fuck, we ain't getting that WrestleMania money in 2027. And if WWE goes to UK in 2028, fuck are we going to do in the next 3 years? Remember, when you see the history show, 2031, they might be in Florida. A lot of people, I think, forgot what happened last year with WrestleMania in Florida. But no, but the thing is, I think Zoe Stark would have been perfect for like Bloodsport. I think she could do stuff with GCW. I could see her doing stuff with Indies. I could see her maybe doing something with Ring of Honor. I actually think she would be like, she could be like what happened with Athena. Athena didn't work out in WWE. She had opportunity through the Ring of Honor. And listen, obviously we know how Tony Khan basically shriveled up and took away Ring of Honor's identity. Not intentionally, but Ring of Honor's identity is all but gone. But if you look at Tony Khan's Ring of Honor, I honestly think Athena might be in the top 3 of who has done. You look at the top stars of Tony Khan's Ring of Honor, I would put Athena 1, 2, or 3. Easily. I'm not saying Zoe Stark could get on that level, but I could see her because it would be handled a lot different, and I could see her working some of those women on the Ring of Honor level. I don't know if you put her on the main roster of AEW, because I think some of the women there, she would not leapfrog. I think she would have a much better chance in AEW. TNA, maybe if TNA really wants to take the Knockouts division a little bit more serious. I mean, they do have women in TNA that could work great with Zoe Stark. I could see that on the Indies. I don't see Japan. Zoe Stark might end up being someone. Listen, obviously, she's come this far at rehab. I don't think she's going to be like, fuck it. I'm married now. My husband's taking care of the bills. Fuck it. I'll just stay home. A podcast. No, I think she's got a fire lit under her ass that's like, I'm going to show WWE that they should have waited a little bit longer. So I think she will work a little bit in wrestling. I just don't know for how long. So, Alba Fire, I think she wrote on X that Kaylee Ray would beat the shit out of Alba Fire. She was never the same without Isla Dawn. And it's a shame because Isla Dawn was one of the ones that really disappointed me the most. Not her, but WWE, the way they used her. Alba Fire and Isla Dawn, just like Toxic Attraction, should have went so much further on the main roster and didn't. Just WWE just gave up. But once Isla Dawn was gone, Alba Fire was never the same. They tried to mix it up a little bit. You saw what they did, with Chelsea Green. It was fine. I liked it to an extent. But the thing is, Alba Fire is being paid to be a women's wrestler and a top one at that. And they just basically gave up. They gave up on the seriousness and the ability of Alba Fire, and instead we'll do this gimmick thing, get a little heat on Chelsea Green. Instead of Chelsea Green getting an ass kicking, we'll have Alba Fire take it most of the time. And you look at, I just feel that's someone that when her tag team partner was let go, the writing was on the wall. I'm a little surprised that she lasted as long as she did. What's her future? That's another wrestler I could see in TNA. I could also see in Ring of Honor. I just don't feel in AEW. Even if you put her on AEW Dynamite in 3 months, that'll last a month. And then just like Deonna Purrazzo and the way they treated her and fucking, you look at some of the other women. I mean, I'm happy that Camille is back. I want to see 2 months from now what Camille is doing. It just feels like, her best years, or she may have to go overseas. She may have to go overseas, go to the UK for Alba Fire to really prosper again, my honest opinion. Just because you've been working in the States doesn't mean that your future should be in the States. Would not be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised she gets some indie work, but my guess is she goes to the United Kingdom and she may end up staying there. Kind of similar to what Isla Dawn's been doing. I think those two need to re-hook up again. I think they should re-hook up. I got news for you. Look at the inspiration. Doesn't it feel like a lot of the wind of the inspiration's balloon has already been popped? If there was a tag team that I would re-energize in women's tag team wrestling, it would be Alba Fire and Isla Dawn. I don't know if Alba Fire could use her name. Probably not. But even if she used a real name and Isla Dawn, so what? They were great as a tag team. That's what I would do. So that leaves us the Wyatt Six. I don't want to say that they don't give a shit about Bray Wyatt anymore. I just think this is how I look at it. And this is very rough for me to say because Bray Wyatt is my favorite wrestler in the last 20 years. Terry Funk is my favorite wrestler of all time, and they both died within a week. My favorite wrestler of all time and my favorite wrestler in the last 20 years both died within a week. I look at it like a TV show. I look at it like a sports team. Somebody tragically dies. Of course, maybe in sport you retire their number. Of course, with a TV show, you pay a tribute. But that doesn't mean that week in and week out and week in and week out, you could continue paying tribute for that fallen person. And the thing is, of course it's merchandise. I honestly think the reason why the Wyatt Six were reformed, first and foremost, was to sell merchandise. I mean, my God, I could look around this room. There's Bray Wyatt shit and there's fucking Wyatt Six stuff everywhere in this room. All right. Of course they wanted to pay tribute to Bray Wyatt. Of course, the WWE Universe wanted to celebrate Bray Wyatt a little bit more. But sometimes you got to let go. That doesn't mean that we don't think about him less, but sometimes you got to let go and you got to think about the future. And I think in the case of Bo Dallas, out of everybody in the Wyatt Six, Bo Dallas, I will never truly understand how little they use this guy. Even after he returned, he was fine and back from injury. It almost felt like, and I know this sounds horrible to say, but it's almost like the only reason why Bo Dallas is on the roster is because his brother passed away. I mean, that's what it felt like. He did a great fucking job with Uncle Howdy, and you had untapped, possibilities. But the thing was, he wasn't Bray Wyatt. And he wasn't the replacement for Bray Wyatt. And they wanted to figure out how can we make the most money by using him the least. And you had the haunted house thing. And the haunted house thing was great. And believe it or not, the fucking haunted house thing could still return next year. We don't know. It could still return next year. I think WWE owns the trademark. But at the end of the day, it just felt like they just didn't have any faith. This was a very expensive group to keep together. Nikki Cross had a great run in WWE. From Psycho to almost a superhero to Wyatt Six. She had a great run. But if this situation didn't happen with Bray Wyatt, she probably would have been released 2 years ago. Dexter Lumis was in that company since, what year was it? He's been in that company since 2019. He was released in 2022, but then he returned later in 2022. He wasn't gone long. He's been there for almost 7 years. I mean, you saw what they did in NXT. Sam Shaw was great. You saw what they did on the main roster early on, the stuff with Miz and about the income and this and that. Fans got into him. The problem was fans wanted to see him with Indy Hartwell. They wanted the double dating to continue on the main roster, and WWE was not having that. And obviously, when everything happened with Bray Wyatt, the idea of doing this group, the Wyatt Six, and it was about making money. Every single one of them had a gimmick related to Bray Wyatt to sell money, to sell merchandise, of course, to keep his memory alive. But at the end of the day, it's about dollars and cents. And unfortunately, my friends, listen, I don't agree with this. I'm trying to make sense of it. Bray Wyatt's been gone now for several years. And how does WWE continue to make money from Bray Wyatt? If you come out with new Wyatt Six merchandise, you have to put them on TV to get them over, to make people want to buy the merchandise. It's not automatic that, oh, did you see the latest Wyatt Six? I got to get it. I got to get it. You'll have 1,000 people who say that on social media. Maybe 10 will actually buy it. You know, usually, especially the amount of money that WWE charges now for shirts, $35. You add shipping and tax and everything else. So it's a very expensive group. You're paying 5 people. You're paying 5 people. And you do it as a group or you do it as nothing. They weren't going to just keep Uncle Howdy. It was the group or no group. And as I said at the beginning of the show, WWE, more than anything, shit the bed. I didn't forget about Kyrie Sane. She's my last one. But they shit the bed with the Wyatt Six more than anybody else. And as time went on, it made me feel like TKO has no emotional attachment to Bray Wyatt. None whatsoever. The wrestlers do, the creative does, management does, Triple H does, and everything else. But at the end of the day, the amount of money that you have to make to offset paying 5 people was not beneficial enough for TKO to keep them around. Joe Gacy is a little bit older than I think some people realize. Joe Gacy, I could see indies. I could see him possibly TNA. I don't know. And I know the question everybody's saying right now. I'm not even looking at the chat room, and I'm going to say it. You're going to be like, yeah, I'll get to that in a minute. Joe Gacy, I don't know if AEW is even an option. For what? For what? I mean, you look at you know what I would do? You know what I would possibly do? If you're going to bring Alistair Black to AEW and do the House of Black, if Buddy Matthews can't do it, and put Dexter Lumis with Brody King and Alistair Black. I would put Dexter Lumis and have him be as in the House of Black. That's what I would do. I think Dexter Lumis is a psycho, is money wherever it goes. The guy could work. The guy is fucking great at what he does. It's just WWE never wanted him to talk. The guy could talk. No, we don't want that. They didn't want it in NXT. They didn't want it in the main roster. They didn't want it with The Miz. They didn't want it with the Wyatt Six. No. I guarantee you there are hundreds of thousands of WWE fans that have no idea what Dexter Lumis sounds like. They have no idea. They don't know if he's very soft-spoken. They don't know if he's very manly. They don't know if he sounds like he's on ether. They don't know what he sounds like. Hey, thank you for coming. I hope you enjoy WrestleMania. Like, they don't even know what Dexter Lumis sounds like. I think Dexter Lumis could be brought back that way. Now, I know what everybody's thinking right now. Bring all 5 together on an indie show. Problem is, I don't know what trademarks WWE owns. I will tell you that outside of wrestling, I see Wyndham Rotunda's name used a hell of a lot more than Bray Wyatt. And the reason why I say that is I think the Wyatt name has got to be trademarked by WWE by itself. So if you bring these 5 to the indies and they can't be called the Wyatt Six and they can't dress up like the characters, what do? You would do them in a convention. WrestleCon, the Wyatt Six returns. Group photo, all 5 members. I could see that. I think Bo Dallas leaves wrestling. Bo Dallas was gone from wrestling for a while. I think Bo Dallas leaves wrestling again. Nikki Cross, she can work well anyway. I think TNA might be her best shot unless she travels overseas. Dexter Lumis is one of those guys, you could put him anywhere and the guy could fucking click. Joe Gacy, I think, is a little bit harder. The guy will do great on the indies. On the Northeast, Joe Gacy will make money. But I don't know if that's would be content for him. I do want to say one thing. And I appreciate everybody who reached out to me publicly and privately. I would be angry at myself if we didn't bring this up. And I hope Joe Gacy has seen this. Joe Gacy posted something on X today. And you know what's interesting? This episode seems to be turning into about the releases. So we'll talk a little bit more about the releases and maybe some call-ups, and we'll get out of here. So we'll keep it simple for this episode. By the way, next week, I'm going to talk to all of you who's live to give me your opinion on what we do next to grow our brand a little bit further. Do we do another show during the week on a Tuesday, a Friday, or a Saturday? Do we start going live almost every day, even for a short amount of time, just to talk? Do we go live when major news breaks? You know, we're going to talk about it next week because I have some ideas. I want to share it. I didn't want to share it until I was ready to take it to the next level. But Joe Gacy posted this today. He says, just a story for the fans. True story. In the first few weeks after the debut of the Wyatt Six, I was walking around backstage alone, navigating my new status as an NXT call-up. In that moment, I glanced over at a curtain, and what do I see? A moth. A real live moth. And he felt, no one else was around, but he felt that that moth was a sign that Bray Wyatt approved at what they were doing. Very emotional story. And it's viral right now, the story he told about the moth. Well, for those that don't know, obviously Bray Wyatt was my favorite wrestler the last 20 years. I cried like a baby when we covered it the day he passed. I want you guys, and this is like I said, I hope Joe Gacy has seen this by now. The day that I went live and talked about the death of Bray Wyatt, we talked about the life vest. And it was a very touchy subject because at the time, a lot of people didn't know what a life vest was. I have family members who were forced to wear a life vest. All right. And I explained that Bray Wyatt one day just decided I'm not going to wear it. I feel fine. Left it in the car and passed away. And when I covered it, while I was live, something happened. And the full live stream for the entire night is online still. But for everyone out there that's on video, this is only about 45 seconds long. I want you to just pay very close attention of my face and think about Joe Gacy's story that he told, seeing the moth in the back. They prescribed Bray Wyatt the cardiac life vest a week ago. Wasn't like it was 3-6 months ago. And, you know, I feel good. I'm nearing a return. I feel good. I don't need to wear it. I'm fine. I feel great. I left it in the car. Went to sleep right now. Never woke up. That is horrible. What the? I've been doing coverage of wrestling since 1997. I've been on video now for 6-7 years or whatever. Never before, never after that day did a moth ever pop up in my house. I'm covering the death of Bray Wyatt and a fucking moth flies by and hits me in the face. Live. A lot of you there witnessed it live. At the time, I thought it was a mosquito. I didn't know what it was. All I know is that something was touching me in the face. And then I watched the video back and I was like, some people thought that I used AI. I was fucking live. Some people thought that I staged that. Just let that sink in. Hey, Moth, stay the fuck over there. The minute I say Bray Wyatt can't wake up, fly over here and hit me in the face. I do believe there's an afterlife. The Daphne moment and that Moth are the two things that convince me. Seeing my grandmother many, many years ago, thinking that she was in my house, I saw her in my window waving at me for at least 30 seconds, walk into my house. My mother's like, what are you talking about? Your grandmother's not here. Those moments convince me there's got to be something more. There's no way a Moth. It didn't appear earlier in the night. It didn't appear afterwards. I didn't say to everyone, hey, everybody, hold on a second. It just disappeared. I don't know whatever happened to it. I swear to God. I swear on my mother. So when I read that story about Joe Gacy, that shit is deep. That is fucking deep. That's, and, it's sad at the same point. It's sad. I don't know how they could continue Bray Wyatt's legacy outside of WWE. And I don't know if they should. Now, I don't mean it the way you think. What I'm saying is that Dexter Lumis has got to map out the rest of his career. Nikki Cross has to map out the rest of her career. She could put face paint on, wear a white nightgown, and fucking continue doing, what she was doing. Sister Abigail. But, is really that the way she should go? I don't think so. So I honestly think with the Wyatt Six gone, also gone is the tribute. You talk about him, you have convention reunions, could work indies once in a while together. Hell, I would think Joe Gacy and Dexter Lumis could continue as a tag team. The one person who I really don't know who has much time left as a wrestler is Eric Rowan. Eric Rowan, unfortunately, he had time. Remember, he was let go from the WWE before Brody Lee passed away. And a lot of places didn't use him. He had some work as Eric Redbeard, but they really did not use him much at all. When Brody passed away, he got a little bit extra work, and then it disappeared again. It dried up. So, the thing is, with Brody gone now and with Bray gone now, I don't know what you do with Eric Rowan. I honestly think Eric Rowan will probably finish his wrestling career the way it was going before they brought him back and did the Wyatt Six. He will work various indies. He will go back to Eric Redbeard. He will do interviews. He'll make appearances. He'll have plenty of conventions. And I think that's it. I don't know how far you could go with him. It does feel that he was reinvigorated with this Wyatt Six. And I think now with that gone, I think it takes a lot of the air out also. I think it's, and I also think that they might have seen this coming. The way they've been utilized on TV was awful. The stuff they were doing with the MFTs was not well received. You look back at last year, my God, we were covering it in real time, like 7 months, nothing. Bo Dallas, what's going on? We even put him on a milk carton. So WWE, I honestly think, brought him back to some merchandise. I don't mean it that cold, but I do. Because you feel once they had that view with the Final Testament, that was it. You look back on it, it was Miz, Alpha Academy, Final Testament, MFTs. Like, They never envisioned any of these guys to take it to the next level. It was, Halloween came around, Universal Studios, merchandise, Halloween, Bray Wyatt, tribute, Wyatt Six, more merchandise, shirts, this, and that. That came and went, and it's like, all right, we got 5 people on the payroll. Is it worth it? And Triple H said no. You know, and I don't want anybody saying to me, oh, you don't know if he made the decision. I guarantee you the people higher up, like Ari Emanuel and them, didn't choose the individual people. All right. They basically gave a number to Triple H and said, look, whatever you got to do, you do. I'm sure they went to board of directors and said, look, these are the people that we're going to let go. And I don't think they had any objection. There could be more people on that list that we don't know about that ended up not being cut. There could be more people on that list that will be cut. But out of all of them, Kyrie Sane is the one that disappoints me more than anything else. Again, I said it earlier, I'll say it again now. There's plenty of recent episodes that I said WWE has never given me any faith that they could push Kairi Sane as a babyface by herself or as a heel by herself. When they were doing Asuka bullying her, it felt like there was only one path to go. One day, Asuka's going to push Kairi Sane and she's going to say, stop it. No, enough. And Asuka would be like, oh. I mean, if anything, that's what we're gonna miss. Headphone alert. We're gonna miss Kyrie. That's what we're gonna miss. But it was leading to that direction, and it's like you're not gonna take her away from Asuka and put her with Io Sky. Kabuki Warriors makes more money, makes more sense than having Io Sky. Io Sky they want as a single star. Now with Rhea Ripley's on SmackDown. You know, what do you do with Kairi Sane? I've never been confident, ever, that they could push Kairi Sane as a single star. And when they were pushing this storyline with Asuka, it was only going in one direction, and it never finished that direction. Last time we had it, they're back as collective unit. They lose. Asuka's bitter on the outside. That's it. Unfortunately, my friends, like I said earlier, you could have hashtag trending, we want Kyrie. Unfortunately, my friends, you bring her back. And then what? You look at her WWE career as a single star. The most noteworthy is when she got injured from Nia Jax. You bring her back and then what? Suddenly creative is going to have an epiphany. Oh my God, I've got it. I know how we could push Kairi Sane to the championship. They never fucking knew how to handle her as a single star. It was Kabuki Warriors or die. And once they felt like, we've done enough. We can only go so far. And again, when you're in charge, even if you don't do a great job, I'm the boss. We're the boss. Unfortunately, what we say gets done. And that's why Kyrie Sane is out of a job. And that's a fucking shame. That is a shame. I think Kyrie Sane is going to go back to Japan. I don't know if you bring Kyrie Sane to AEW. Sure, I could think of matches right away. I could see Rio and I could see Hikaru Shida, not because they're all Japanese. I could see a bunch of women. But I just feel Kyrie Sane, she'll get a win over Sky Blue. She'll get a win over, nobody, number 3. She'll have competitive matches, but lose and lose and lose and lose. I think Kyrie Sane, maybe TNA. I think Dexter Lumis, I think TNA. I think you're bringing back, I wish he could still do Dexter Lumis. Got to do a little Indy Hartwell stuff. I should have said that earlier. But Kyrie Sane, I could see maybe AEW, but for a very short period of time. And I don't know how long that lasts, to be honest with you. Just not enough spots. TNA, maybe. But again, who's going to speak for her? Who's going to speak for her? That's another thing you got to think about. That's why I think that's another reason why they never showed me any confidence with Kyrie Sane. What's she going to do? Cut promos Japanese? Even if she understands a little bit of English? Like, I think this is a case where you'll see her pop up on a special show once in a blue moon, but for the most part, I think she goes back to Japan. All right. So that's what we got as far as the releases. And we ended up talking a little bit longer than I thought. But, yeah, I think it was deserving because it was 24 of them. So there was quite a few to discuss. But, yeah, let's start getting into your feedback. Oh, my God. How many people are live right now? That's awesome. Let's see. Oh, no. No. Let's talk a little bit first about the releases, some of your feedback. Ronnie C., thank you very much, Ronnie. Ronnie says, except for Kyrie, I think you predicted a release of every person let go. Which release surprised me the most? Who will benefit the most? Who will waste away? And will I ever recover over the release of Dante Chen? That's awesome. First of all, I will tell you right off the bat, I did not think Alistair Black and Zelina Vega would have been let go this soon. It's only been 1 year. I honestly would have thought, maybe give it another 6 months to a year and see if anything could recover from it. But no, I don't think they should have been let go. I did not predict their release. I got to be honest with you. As far as which surprised me the most, I think we all agree Kyrie Sane is probably the one that surprises us the most. Who will benefit the most? I don't want to include NXT. Out of that, all the people that were released, I think who benefits the most? Oh, boy, I think the Motor City Machine Guns. I mean, Alba Fire, not really. Zoe Stark, not really. Zelina Vega, maybe a little bit with Alistair Black as a duo. I don't think Apollo Crews. I mean, it doesn't mean that every single one of them is going to disappear. Kyrie Sane will get work. Kyrie Sane will be fine. But how much exposure, because I live in the United States, so I can only speak for the United States, but how much exposure is Kyrie Sane going to get in the United States going forward? So I think out of that whole list, I think it comes down to Motor City Machine Guns, Alistair Black and Zelina Vega as a duo, and once Santos Escobar recovers from injury, then maybe him. But again, when you look at these collectively, not a shot at the Pure Fusion Collective, but you look at them collectively, you didn't have any blockbuster, like big money person that could suddenly be signed and that is an ace in the whole signing. Kyrie Sane is probably the most popular one, but this is not someone that would lead the women's division of anywhere. So, this is much harder to think about. Who do I think wastes away out of all of them? I know we mentioned that football player that turned NXT, but I think that's a little unfair because he just started. Out of this list, I think Zoe Stark will have a little resurgence just to show everyone that WWE screwed up and she could go at 100% level. Kind of reminds me a little bit of what they did with, trying to think of a good one, for example, like somebody that was let go Dakota Kai. I think she'll get a little bit of Dakota Kai run and then very quickly drift away. I think Eric Redbeard will drift away a little bit more than we think. But he's had a tremendous career. It's just sad the way it ended up. And I will recover from Dante Chen. I'm telling you, this is the way I feel with Dante Chen. He's always been a little funny joke on our shows. Let's see. Being 24, do I think Kyrie will be back like R-Truth? I brought that up earlier. No, I don't think so. Because again, the big negative is you bring her back and then what? And then what? You're not going to push her as a single star. She's not going to kill it on the mic. WWE's never, even when they brought her back, think about it, when they brought her back, it's never been a case where she's by herself. And I don't know if she should as far as the United States goes. So, no, I don't think so. I think this outcry, it reminds me a lot of Cross from last year. We want Cross. I think WWE knows, I think they knew that there was going to be a lot of backlash from it. And I think, eventually that'll subside. Again, I would love to see her back. I could love to see WWE change her mind, but you got to ask yourself, and I say that to the hardest of hardcore supporters of her. If WWE changed her mind, then what would you do? Then what would you do? Like, a lot of people don't have that answer. No, bring her back. Okay, and then what? And then you realize, that actually isn't as easy as it sounds. That's my honest take on it. So no, I don't think they'll bring her back like R-Truth. Thank you very much, Todd Pelkey. He says, the Big Don, you got that high energy. I love it. Trust me, a double lungo will do that. But I appreciate you, man. Thank you very much. Jim Kahn says Triple H is taking too long to turn someone heel or babyface. It can't take that long to read an audience. I just think they don't care sometimes. I think they'll just milk it. Listen, the Sami Zayn stuff, I think I know where it's going. I think in short order, he will be feuding with Cody. I think when Ricky Starks gets promoted to the main roster, we may get at least a match with Cody. Try to give a little bit of that insider deal. But yeah, it's still a lot of the people, I pointed this out yesterday on social media, and I'll say it over here again. If you look at WWE Unreal, I don't like that show. I've made it very vocal. I'm not a fan of that show. But when you look at that show, tell me, of all the people released, benefited in any way from WWE Unreal. You would have thought that there would be a little bit more given for the Wyatt Six, at minimum. You look at WWE Unreal, and you tell me from all the people that were let go, if any of them got any benefit, you would think, all right, maybe we use WWE Unreal to get the fans a little bit more emotionally attached to someone. Maybe we can help, just get that connection a little bit stronger. And then you let it bleed over to the ring itself. And you don't have that. And that's kind of surprising when you look at it at the end of the day. It's a reflection. Unreal is dedicated to the big stars, the big money makers. And that's it. I mean, I'm not saying that Chelsea Green is this giant money maker. She might be one of the rare exceptions, but you look at everybody, it's like they didn't even care. I mean, if we're being honest, it just feels like a lot of these people, they just ran through the motions. Let's just throw shit on the wall, see if it sticks. And it didn't stick. All right, it's time. So that's how I feel about it, to be honest with you, Jim. And Bray gave me a moth. What sign did Kev give me? I think he looked over my mother with a heart surgery. Kev gave me a lot more drive to get checked out health-wise a little bit more. I've been diagnosed with a tumor in my midsection that I have not had taken care of as of yet. I've had a couple of issues with sleep apnea that I am now taking very, very seriously. So it doesn't have to be a physical sign, but there is definitely an emotional sign connected to it. And I know your question is not meant to be sarcastic. What you're saying is, how do I feel Kev is attached to me? Believe me, when I thought about these releases, no joke, I said to myself this weekend, I said, wow. So I would have loved to talk to Kev about what they did with Sam Shaw and some of the names on this list. I think he would have had a field day ripping WWE on some of this. But no, Kev has given me a lot of indirect help and taking things seriously. And I know I'm not the only one. I've had a lot of people reach out to me, and even the night that we did that show, the day he passed, and it was a very awkward night because every emotion came out, except for happiness. Other than remembering him with love, every emotion came out: anger, frustration, confusion, just so many things. And although it was very hard for some people to hear, a lot of people now understand why those emotions were. Sometimes you have to address things that are very uncomfortable. But, he's missed. I miss him dearly. So, okay. I don't understand, Todd, what this means. He sees that Bullfrog wants to partner up with me. I do not super chat that, but I don't know what that means. There's got to be a subliminal message with this. I don't know who Bullfrog is. Who is Bullfrog? I was trying, and when I saw that come in at the beginning of the show, I was saying, who's Bullfrog? Maybe someone in the chat could elaborate on that a little bit. I don't know what Bullfrog is, but Alcy of Steel made him very happy to see Fatal Influence get the call up together. That is the group that we talked last week. I felt they needed to be called up together. I kind of wish Sal Ruka would have been called to SmackDown and Fatal Influence called to Raw. I could understand with SmackDown being 3 hours, you have some more time to kind of utilize some of these people a little bit better. So that's probably the reason why they ended up on SmackDown. But I kind of think to myself, I don't see Sal Ruka and Liv Morgan being a long feud. I could see JC Jane and Fatal Influence feuding with Liv, Raquel, and Roxanne. Problem is, Fatal Influence obviously are much better as heels. And you don't want two heel factions going at it on Raw. So I understand now why they went what they went, but they got amazing heel heat on SmackDown. And listen, it's the first SmackDown after WrestleMania, so the energy level is amped up that much more. But I want to see what happens over the next couple of weeks. I don't think anybody in their wildest dreams thinks that Rhea Ripley is going to drop that women's championship anytime soon. So you have JC Jane feuding with her, that's fine. But what happens? What happens a month from now? Where does this go? And my God, look what happened with Julia and fucking Tiffany Stratton on Friday. You realize they could have had a match at WrestleMania and they didn't. So, all right. Police Squad, say something nice about Lil Yachty. I think he works well with Trick Williams. That's all I could really say. I mean, he got very offended when the fans went after him the week earlier. But the problem is he tried to push around his knowledge for wrestling. They try to, because of who he is and how much he loves wrestling and his knowledge for it, then by default, we should accept that and embrace it. But I honestly couldn't see much wrong with it on Friday. And again, I think Trick Williams likes working with him. I don't know how long this will last. So that's, we'll see what happens 2-3 months from now. I don't think it's that big of a deal right now. I'm not against celebrities being involved in any way, shape, or form. It's just there's got to be a better balance. And I don't want to see people being on TV simply because, they're a celebrity. There's got to be a better balance. We've had celebrities do a great job. I mean, it's not that. It's just that, again, this is something you got to get used to with TKO. There's not going to be a sudden epiphany that they have different direction. I wrote this in the synopsis, the title for this show. Look at Pat McAfee and Jelly Roll. In case you haven't paid attention, they're not suddenly listening to the fans. They're not suddenly realizing that this shit sucked. What they're concerned about is their own brand. They're concerned about any damage they could have caused themselves. I brought it up last week. You know, Jelly Roll's about to go on tour with, I can't remember the other guy that he's performing with. Maybe someone in the chat could post it. But of all their shows that happen in like 3 weeks, almost all the shows are between 50 and 75% empty. Empty. And Jelly Roll, you know, I think, listen, it's not just the wrestling stuff. It's the stuff he said, you know, comments. People think he's a little bit of a fake. There's some personal issues with Jelly Roll. This is attempts at damage control. Pat McAfee's wife telling him to get out of wrestling. Pat McAfee suddenly saying, you know, I think Cody is the savior after all. These are motherfuckers trying to repair their own image. Just like when Pat McAfee got upset at Canada for booing the national anthem, the American national anthem, and then a couple of days later he backtracked on it. He was upset at the backlash he was getting from Canadian viewers of his. So he backtracked. They're worried about their own brand more than anything else. You know, they know exactly what was going on. All right. And the idea that, oh, you know, they realize now, bullshit. And there's enough suckers out there that will think, you know what? I got to give Pat McAfee credit. Got to give Jelly Roll credit. They realize that what they did was awful. So now we got to, you know, pull away from that. That's nonsense. That is absolute nonsense. They're just trying to repair the damage that was created because of what they did. It's not their fault that this storyline was as bad as it was. It was just unnecessary. It was unnecessary. People had no problem with Jelly Roll last year when he did the stuff with Logan Paul. What people started getting angry about was watching WWE Unreal and seeing Logan Paul and Jelly Roll like working this out. How do wrestling fans in any way, shape, or form, how does that benefit anybody? You know, when everybody was watching in real time, Jelly Roll showing up on a show and doing chokeslam and Logan Paul and doing this and that, there was a lot of people like, motherfucker, it was real. I mean, we know what it is, but later on, you show behind the scenes of prepping all of this, all these people that got emotionally connected to it last year, they watch Unreal 6 months later. Now they're like, oh, bastards. Yeah, you almost had me. WWE, Jelly Roll, you almost had me. So now you replace Logan Paul with Pat McAfee. And people are like, I remember this shit from last year. I ain't fucking falling for it this time around. And people are like, you know, I'm kind of sick of this shit. And now wrestling is over and done with. WrestleMania is come and gone. And now the white Travis Scott, who I call Pat McAfee, and Jelly Roll are left worse than before WrestleMania. So how do they repair that? To make it seem like, you know, listening to the fans and, you know, maybe we really should focus on what we are good at what we do. And people are like, oh, thank God. Oh, they're finally getting it. They ain't getting shit. They ain't getting shit. Because before you know it, an opportunity will come up again, and they'll do it again, and then they'll try to make it look at. Listen, when WWE Unreal comes out later on about WrestleMania, you're going to see all these retakes and stuff done to make it seem like this person's reluctant and this person is questioning this. You think TKO Group Holdings and the board of directors are going to let their number one moneymaker, Cody Rhodes, go on a microphone and say, I'm 3-0 against everybody you put up against me? Motherfucker, these were storylines. These were storylines. All you had to do is just look at Cody Rhodes for the 2-3 weeks leading up to WrestleMania. Every interview he did, whenever Pat McAfee was brought up, it was word salad. The best one was that fucking Mutt and Jeff's Hidden Podcast, whatever that was. And he's bringing up Hardcore Holly. He's bringing up Attitude Era. He's like, this isn't 1997. What are you talking about? He literally could not just flat out and say, listen, you know, I'm in on it. I'm in on it. You know, they'll redo Unreal to make it seem like there was unwilling participants. You're not going to have this friction with board of directors. people trying to still convince you 2 years later that The Rock was going into business for himself and The Rock was going to become champion. And within 48 hours, The Rock with that fancy dress shirt sitting at a table going, I've listened to the fans and I realize Cody Rhodes should be in this position after all. Oh, really? And where was Ari Emanuel and Mark Shapiro at that time? Were they outside at the fucking sausage truck? Were they buying tacos on the corner? Like they just suddenly like, Dwayne, whatever you want to do, Dwayne, we're for it. These motherfuckers, no one ever stopped 2 years ago and said, how come Mark Shapiro and Ari Emanuel and Nick Khan were all silent when The Rock decided to do all this? And The Rock changed his mind. Ari Emanuel was the one that said, we want him in Elimination Chamber. We want him to get involved with that. And suddenly, The Rock feels the fans spoke out. The Rock feels Cody should get the shot after all. And Ari Emanuel and Mark Shapiro are outside buying ice cream. Oh, Mr. Softy. Mr. Softy. They suddenly disappeared. And just whatever you want to do, we're fine with it. Cody wants to finish your story, fine. That's fine with me. So we watch Cody doing what he's doing. People we know Cody, what the fuck is going on. We're not stupid. So you got Jelly Roll and Pat McAfee trying to give us damage control to try to make up for the bullshit that we got for the last month too. It's damage control. That's all it is. That's all it is. Somebody said I'm in savage mode. I appreciate that, but to be honest with you, I'm just speaking my mind. That's what we do here. We opine. Now, I didn't forget. We should bring it up now. Who do you think should have been released? Who do you think, not that you wanted them released, who do you think should have been released? I'll tell you a few names that come to mind right away. And I don't mean this personally, because some of these people I do like very much. I personally think Nikita Lyons, with all due respect, I mean, my God, I was a huge fan of hers. I still think she could do something, but I just felt they cut the cord on Cora Jade so quickly, and they kept Nikita Lyons around. That I'm a little surprised with. I also feel that at some point you got to just say enough is enough with Akira Tozawa. Otis, obviously, it's amazing how much a difference a year makes. Because a year ago when Rusev debuted, Maxine Dupree was still a valet for Otis and Tozawa. And she is completely different than what she is now. She's not the... Look, I was going to drink it like this. It'd be nice if I take this thing out. Maxine Dupree's not with them anymore. So I personally think that should have been a change there. At minimum, if you're not going to do anything with Otis, let him go. Let him go somewhere else. That's my honest opinion. Who else? Noam Dar. Noam Dar is another guy that has been there for way, 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 way longer than people realize. And unless he's getting paid shit money in NXT, I think that's someone you got to just turn around and say, enough is enough. I think B-Fab, the problem with B-Fab, because I know a lot of people saying B-Fab, I think the problem with her is, what's her identity? You know what I mean? Like, I remember when they did, everything with Hit Row, and it was annoying as fuck, because their rap was very militant. If you remember when they did that live performance the first time they did it, they were baby faces, and there was a lot of anger in that performance. I just feel that there's very little identity with her. Josh Briggs is another one. Josh Briggs, if anybody follows NXT, he is someone that for quite some time, a lot of people thought this guy's going to get cut. There's nothing against him personally. It's just the fact that Josh Briggs, he's not going to the main roster. That gimmick is not designed for the main roster. So here's another one. Unless he's getting paid chump change in NXT, like, why are you keeping him around? Again, we're not rooting for anybody to be released, and we're not predicting. We're just, as fans, looking at some of the people that have been given not just 9 lives, but maybe 19 lives, and you say to yourself, How is this person still on the roster? Now, if we're also being honest, there's not that many names. There's not that many names. I will tell you another one that might surprise some of you out there. And I am a fan of hers. I like her character. I like her ability. I actually was thrilled when she got called up to the main roster. But I got to be honest with you. The way they've been using her, anybody know who I'm talking about? I'm talking about Kiana James. Kiana James got injured very early on. But when she came up and she had the briefcase and is kind of like the assistant for Adam Pearce, and I'm like, okay, that's it? It just felt like, oh, this is not destined for long-term main roster shit. I like Kiana James. Again, I'm not calling for her release. I'm not saying that she did anything wrong. I just see what's going on with her and Julia, and it feels random. See, Chelsea Green and Alba Fire felt like, okay, two antagonists. I could see where this is going. But with Kiana James and Julia, it just felt really random. And after all of this time, it still hasn't grown on me very much. So unless they have plans for Kiana James, I honestly think you might have to let her go. Let her go to TNA. Let her take her identity to another level. You could always bring her back in a year or two. Show that she's not injury prone. Create something more, because honestly, and I say this in defense of her, look at how she's being used. Let's take a step back for a minute. Look how she's being used. Is that money? Is that someone that you would continue paying year after year after year? I say no. How do you use someone like they're using her and expect her to stick around? Some gimmicks that they give, you look at it and you say to yourself, well, that's not long term. That doesn't seem like it's going to go for a long time. So I'm a little concerned about Kiana James, because I just feel that that's a character that, you got to remember too, she was in NXT for a decent amount of time. So you add the NXT career plus the main roster career and the injury time, there's more time than you think. I think Kiana James, something needs to change. Maybe not necessarily employment, but something needs to change with Kiana James. Who else? Anyone else out there have any names? Nakamura is at the tail end of his career. Nakamura, I think there'll be a retirement match. Not necessarily right now, but I think his career is winding down, so I don't think there's much there. Who else would you say? Again, I say this, and I know it's very unpopular right now, but I'll say it again. Tony D'Angelo. Tony D'Angelo, this is make or break. This is make or break. If we're being honest for a second, let's pretend Tony D'Angelo is brought to the main roster tomorrow. Raw or SmackDown, you choose. If he was brought to the main roster tomorrow, tell me how he connects with the WWE Universe. Why? Because he's angry? He's passionate? Because he could talk a little? Tell me, what's his identity? What's his identity? It's no longer, the mafia. What's his identity? Right now, it's kind of like in the middle of the crossroads. It just feels like that guy, you have to develop an identity a little bit more, because a year from now, I think you could see a change. Johnny Gargano, that's a good one. That is a really good one. It's funny, when Kev was still with us, we debated about Johnny Gargano quite a bit. I was always for Johnny Gargano. Kev is like, I don't see main roster in Johnny Gargano. That's a guy, realistically, him and his wife, I could see that's a guy that I could see in AEW. In a split second, I could see in AEW without a doubt. And I could see him doing a Ring of Honor thing, and I think the AEW universe would open the floodgates for him just a guy that is just genuinely good. You know, it's really talented, but, you know, they've been able to have some fun with his character right now. But I kind of feel Johnny Gargano, a year from now, I honestly think something will be different. And there is still a possibility of more releases. Like I said, I heard of at least one or two people who were very, I don't want to say frustrated, but were very fed up with their run. And I heard both were in NXT. And we might hear other people who have requested their release. They haven't made it public as of yet. Again, I'm not saying this is any news, not writing it nowhere. But the point is, just because it should happen on Friday doesn't mean more doesn't happen. If you look at past years, we would have that flood, that influx of releases, and then 3 weeks later, you'd hear about another one or two. Or 5 days later, you hear another one or two or three. So there could be more. No, as far as keeping Tony D'Angelo in NXT, again, NXT is not created for people to stay there for 6, 7, 8 years. NXT is the developmental system for the main roster. And I get it. It's kind of a gut job. It's to me, Tony D'Angelo is like a house that had a great foundation, but everything else just, I don't want to say you can say it's outdated. Somebody buys a house. Foundation is solid. The foundation is solid. Concrete, everything, the framing, solid. But you look at the house, it looks outdated. And you feel like, okay, I'm going to buy this house. I'm going to keep the foundation, but I'm going to cosmetically do it completely over. That's kind of how I feel about Tony D'Angelo. So you kept the foundation, but you did a gut job on everything else. The thing is, how long do you let that gut job go? Because a year from now, Tony D'Angelo could work. I don't think there's any denying Tony D'Angelo could wrestle. But the thing is, being out there looking angry, looking like Bruiser Brody meets Berserker, and being passionate and intense, that worked for Benoit. That worked for Malenko. That works for very, very, very few people. Tony D'Angelo goes to the main roster, and there's no identity other than an intense person. That will go over like a wet fart. So a year from now, you have to establish who he is. And if they don't establish that, I'm telling you, could be gone. Could be gone. Kit Wilson, I think, it's funny. Piper Niven, Piper Niven, we've heard a couple of different reasons why she's not on TV. I won't say what the one that everybody is leaning towards, but if it is, I don't think WWE would release her right now. I think it would be shocking if WWE really released her, especially if what we hear why she's off TV is the reason. But again, if Piper Niven is not going to be back anytime soon, it might be better for her to exit. Not necessarily, you know what I mean? There's a difference between leaving and being released. If it's more of a case like you mutually agree to part ways, and she says in an interview like, look, at this time, I'm not wrestling. I got to take care of personal things. I think people would respect that, leave it alone, and give her time and not necessarily make WWE look like the bad guy. So I think, you know what? This is a great one. MFTs. I think Tongaloa. I'm just not a fan. I'm sorry. I'm just not a fan. Tala Tonga. Boy, I've tried so hard to convince myself. All right, I see something. I think at least one or two, I hate to say it like this, but this is probably the best way I could say it. At least one or two Samoans are going to be let go. If you don't bring him back on TV soon, I would get rid of Omos. Omos has killed it in AAA. I've loved the shit he's doing on AAA. WWE is not paying him main roster salary to work AAA only. So you have to make a decision about Omos. If Omos is not going to be brought back to the main roster anytime soon, yeah, I think he's a goner. Oh, Chaos, shout out to you, Chaos. Yes, I will definitely link it up. Yeah, I always fear about Twitter getting hacked and getting locked. So he's got a new Twitter account. He is a good friend, and he also holds down the ship with Austin Nash and OTS Tribal Queen, who I haven't seen in a while, but I hope she's doing good. Ilya Dragunov, I would not let go. Ilya Dragunov creatively has been used rather shitty, but I still think that he is repairable. Just like Carmelo Hayes. You know, this is going to be more of a news story tomorrow, but I watched, somebody brought to my attention today. In fact, I even took a screenshot of what No DQ put up. No DQ said Carmelo Hayes on losing the U.S. title before WrestleMania. Quote, it definitely sucked and was heartbreaking. And that intrigued me because if you've heard me on my shows, ever since Melo lost that championship, my reaction has been the same all along. Melo, we know you did a good job of the United States Championship. I know a lot of people think that 2026 is going to be your year and, you know, you've turned the corner, but WrestleMania's coming up and, we want Sammy to be in that spot, not you. So thank you for keeping the title warm, but we're going to give it to Sammy. Who's going to give it to Trick? Where they could have had him in a three-way. And he didn't do it. And people are like, no, he's getting married. No, it's just the stuff. Bullshit. I give Melo credit for having the balls to say that. And that's not a popular thing to say. I guarantee you somebody in WWE Creative is like, why did you do that? Carmelo, in basketball, you just creatively shot an air ball. I don't think Creative would be very thrilled with what Melo just said. But that's the truth. Thank you, Melo. You know, we know you did a great job. You know, we fooled people online thinking that 2026 is going to be your year. You know, I watched giant podcasters write in capital letters, he is him. Oh, God bless you. You don't follow WWE Creative very much, do you? As soon as they didn't put him in a three-way, said it all. What would have been the big deal if Melo gave the buck? I mean, I understand why you put Sami Zayn in that. Sami Zayn, they're steadily turning him heel. And it'll culminate with Cody Rhodes, I think. You heard me earlier. But that doesn't mean you couldn't have had Melo involved in some way, shape, or form. Sami Zayn could have been a dick to both of them. But they're like, thank you, Melo. Thank you for keeping it warm, but we're going to give it to Sammy. What should have Melo said? Should have said it's disappointing that I didn't hold the championship up to WrestleMania. Unfortunately, Sammy got the best of me. You know, yes, my friend that asked this, he was not talking to Ariel Helwani. He was talking to a random guy that was at WrestleMania, got press credentials, recorded a 2-minute interview with Melo for his podcast. So if I'm Melo, yeah, you stay in character a little bit. Listen, I would have loved to have been at WrestleMania. I would have been honored to take on Trick Williams. But unfortunately, the cards were not in my favor, and Sammy was the better person that night, and he got the opportunity. Trust me, that guy that interviewed him probably went home and flexed. He's like, I got Melo. No one is going to turn around at WrestleMania when you got a 2-minute opportunity and be like, Melo, come on. We know what happened here. Come on. You could be honest. Come on. They just didn't have faith in you, right? Come on. Nobody does that. Like, Mello could have indirectly expressed some frustration, but in a way where it's like, you don't say, it sucked and it was heartbreaking. You know, you're just asking to be buried. You're asking for Danhausen, you are buried. Bedded. Not buried, but bedded. Bedded, like B-E-R-R-I-E-D. You are bedded. All right. Let's start bringing this home. How long have we gone? We've gone 2.5 hours already. Let's start bringing this home a little bit. So tomorrow we should have a lot of stuff to get into. I'm glad that we got this story about the releases done, about the call-ups. Let me ask you all this, who's live right now. Who that's been called up? One man, one woman. Sorry for anybody, listen, I don't think anybody identifies as them on the main roster, but one man and one woman. Who are you most excited that's called up? Because it's interesting. And you can't choose Raw and SmackDown. You have to choose one woman only and one man. Who you most look forward to? For me, I think I would have said Blake Monroe, but I still feel there's work to be done. It's going to be interesting to see Blake Monroe and Tiffany Stratton have a conversation in the ring. Unless they just turn around and look at each other like, let's go buy makeup. I'm looking forward to Sol Ruka. And see, Obafemi's been on the main roster for a while, so we don't choose Obafemi. I probably would go Ricky Saints. I think Ricky Saints, it's going to be really interesting because I don't know if he gets into any promo battles where somebody pulls an Adam Copeland. Think AEW, Adam Copeland, what he said that night. I don't think anybody would go that territory. Let me put it this way. Ricky Saints better thank his lucky stars he didn't get into a feud with John Cena. Because I could see if John Cena was getting the better of him in a promo exchange, John Cena will go 10 times lower than Adam Copeland did. Kendall Gray. Is Kendall Gray promoted? Kendall Gray is promoted, right? Kendall Gray, really? Fatal Influence is a good one. I don't think there's any bad ones. A lot of choices for Ricky Saints. I'll tell you this much. No, Brian Kim says the worst year for call-ups. I disagree because, Trick Williams and Obafemi, they were called up a few months early. But if I was just going to say, Kendall Gray's not called up yet. No, we're talking about people that are officially called up. Yeah, I was like, that's a little too soon. I didn't recall Kendall Gray being promoted, so she's not on that list. But Obafemi and Trick Williams were months earlier. But technically, that's, I would consider, somewhat of an NXT call-up. When we look back in reflection, we're not going to turn around and say, well, Oba was brought in 3 months earlier. Oba really didn't do much. You know what I mean? Like, he had 2-3 squash matches. Like, he beat what about the War Raiders? I was going to mention them earlier. Do the War Raiders survive? Do they survive? How does anybody feel about the War Raiders? You think the War Raiders could be on the cutting block? You think they did enough in AAA to maybe get a little bit of extra life? Somebody said the Creed brothers earlier. I think the Creed brothers are good for another year. I think they're good for another year. I think they've just started with them. And Ivy Nile is great. Ivy Nile, I definitely think she'll be utilized better this year than last year. Wendy Chu is very interesting. Wendy Chu's been in that company now for almost 10 years, right? Do I use the pun? She's going to be a sleeper hit. Wendy Chu is someone that might be at the tail end. Doesn't it feel like her career is going backwards? Doesn't it feel like it? She went from which I thought was the funniest thing of it all. Do you remember when she was with Boa and she was with Xia Li? And, you know, like Boa and Xia Li are being tortured. And the most hilarious thing, it was like like Mr. Spock in Star Trek. Mr. Spock would just go up to you and just grab your shoulder and be like, hey, how you doing? If you ever watched the old episodes of Star Trek, he would just go up to you with just two fingers, go like this, and it would always be a dumb sound effect. Da-da-da. Wendy Chu, she's doing that gimmick, and she's blowing smoke in people's faces. And I couldn't stop laughing at that time. I'm like, we're in a fucking pandemic. We're in a pandemic, and she's literally blowing her spit and smoke in someone's face. Which I thought was hilarious, but it does feel like her career is going backwards. You know, like, wasn't there a bad movie where as the person was getting older, they were getting younger? Like, she went from the leader of that group to like a sleepy person to like another gimmick to evolve to LFG. I mean, what's next? She's going to be in a wrestling school? I mean, what's after that? She's going to send a fucking a video package? Like, this is what I can do. Like, it feels like her career is kind of going backwards. Tian Sha. I don't remember that name. She's the Evolve champ. But what I'm saying is, isn't it kind of like the opposite? She's evolving. Let me put it this way. It's almost like, you know, like it started with ape and now with man. It's almost like as she's going backwards, she should be getting like more hair on her body and maybe like her face should start transforming. And she's slowly like developing back into like cave woman days. Like soon she's going to be an ape again. Like we all started as apes. Thank God. I'm going to say it. I don't care. I don't know. People will laugh. Thank God she's not black. Because if I would have had this conversation now, someone out there would have been like, her career's going backwards. She went from fucking NXT. We thought she was going to get promoted to the main roster. Now she's the Evolve champion. Next, she's going to be an NIL signing. We've just signed Wendy Chu to an NIL deal. Yes, Michael. I say what people are thinking. It's all lighthearted, you know, but there's always someone that does that, right? If we're being honest in 2026, as soon as Jade Cargill lost the championship, see, it was too good to be true. You always have to screw a black champion. Like, shut up. Or with Femi, Trick Williams, I mean, it's gotta be all or nothing. I mean, you see that right away. You know, it's like, come on, man, it's not always about color. And some people take that shit really, really deep. Really deep. No, stop that. Dorian just figured out what I was trying to say before. But am I wrong? Can you imagine if I had that conversation and Wendy Chu was black? And I'm talking about prehistoric. Oh my God. That's it. Literally just, you know, just take this sausage and just crack me over the head with it. That's it. I'm done. I would have been screwed. All right. Roderick Howard, do I think my grandmother would have been a fan of the current wrestling product? She would have been devastated about Hogan passing away. But then again, you know, like my grandmother died in 1991. So that was before a lot of the Hogan negative stuff. I think my grandmother would still be into it. I think so. I think she probably would have been into like Cena, maybe Roman Reigns. Like I could see her, you know, getting into some wrestlers, but I don't think she would have been into like it was back in the day. Back in the day, it wasn't, you know what? My grandmother also would not be, I don't think she would have been knowledgeable about computers. My grandmother made keys for a living. And when my grandmother died, her fingers looked like, what's the best way I could put it? You look like the average podcaster's penis that looks like an oversized thumb. Like my grandmother's fingers look like 5 oversized thumbs, like 5 podcaster penises. Her fingers were all swollen. She couldn't even open her doorknob. Like, I just can't picture her like surfing the net and pushing a mouse, and she wouldn't know anything about what's going on. Like, she wouldn't have been smart to the business. So, Terry's Odyssey with a 10 spot. Thank you very much, Terry. I appreciate that. Much love to you, my friend. And thank you for that. S21 Ultra, my thoughts about the hotel security of 42. I talked about this a lot on Wednesday. I think that guy that got in the face of AJ Lee and Bailey, I think, in reflection, I stick with it. The minute you go on TMZ, you're kind of like Pom-Pom Girl without the pom-poms. Pom-Pom Girl tried to make Obafemi look like an asshole online. When you get so close to a woman that Bailey could actually touch your phone, and you hear Bailey go, back off, dude. Back off, dude. CM Punk slapping his phone was the best thing that could have happened. Because you can't tweet your way out of the mentality of fans today. You have a lot of fans. I paid $1,000 to go to this WrestleMania. All right. You're getting paid a crazy amount of money. If I want to fucking take a picture, if I want to say hello, all right, look at that autistic guy. I don't make fun of any type of illness, but you saw that guy with Randy Orton. You had a middle 20s guy with a big orange jacket that you would wear like if you do acting like a crossing guard, and it says autistic, be kind. Be kind. You're in the fucking face of Randy Orton, following him to an elevator with papers saying, could you sign this, Randy? 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 And you're supposed to be like, oh, he's autistic. It's the same shit that they did about the guy who grabbed Cora Jade. It's the same thing they said about the guy that fucking took the ball out of Mookie Betts' glove at the fucking baseball game. You can't, you showcase your illness so people could feel pity on you. It's the opposite. CM Punk slapping the phone out of that guy's hand is the best thing that could have happened, because you get the wrestlers online, respect the wrestler's space, respect their space. They're with their families, they're with the airports, respect their space. Say that to someone who just dropped $1,000. You think they're going to turn and say, maybe I shouldn't get so close. They're not going to think about your tweet. What they're going to think about is, man, I ain't going anywhere near AJ Lee, man. Fucking CM Punk will fucking break my phone. That's how you stop it. You get bouncers that walk with you. And if somebody goes up to you, I don't care if they're autistic or mantistic or fucking spectacular, I don't care what they are. I don't care if they're a billionaire or anything else. You get too close to my person's space, I fucking push you down on your ass. And you talk, I'm going to TMZ. I don't want to sue. I want an apology. If I'm CM Punk, I say, yeah, I'm sorry that you're a creep. I'm sorry that you don't know how to fucking respect people. I'm sorry that you fucking spent all your money and you felt like somebody owed you something. I'm sorry that you're a douchebag. I'm sorry that you went to TMZ and fucking tried to embarrass me. I'm sorry that you're an asshole. And I'm not sorry when somebody puts your information public. Because if you have the balls to go to TMZ and TMZ don't give a shit, they'll pay you $1,000. Thank you, dickhead. We'll share your story. Then somebody needs to put that person's information online. That's my honest opinion. When someone does what Pom-Pom Girl did, Pom-Pom Girl didn't mean anything bad. She likes to take pictures with wrestlers holding up pom-poms. Okay, it's kind of immature, but whatever. You don't know. If that brightened up her day, fine. But the minute she goes online, it's like, I spent this money and Obafemi was unprofessional. Fuck you. Fuck you. No one wanted to chase her off the net, but she got so upset and taken back by all the negativity. She actually, in a clear mind, thought that people were going to be like, you go, girl. Oba owes you an apology. Oba, you need to apologize. That's what she thought was going to happen. So honestly, I think it's about time that, and I'm sorry for saying this, I don't mean to single this person out, but he's one of the really, really nicest people in the world. Fuck the Dustin Rhodes ex-posts. We need to do better. We need to stop doing this. We need to give people real respect. We need to give their space. Fuck that. You say that for 10 years and it does nothing. People say this stuff, oh, we need to be better after tragedy. And it does nothing. It makes you feel good after you hit send on X. I feel like I inspired people. And the people that don't give a fuck, that goes in people's faces, you did nothing. They did nothing. All right, those people go into Ray's face. Sign it for my kid. Look, for a kid. For a kid. Ray, sign it for a kid. Dom, John, sign it for a kid. Those people are psychos. The only way you stop those people is you do what CM Punk did. Trust me, I guarantee you there's other psychos who are going to see AJ Lee at an airport with CM Punk. I ain't going nowhere fucking near him. No. Literally, I don't have my hand grabber thing over here. Do I? Yes, I do. Oh, can I reach it? Fuck. I can't reach it. No, I can reach it. Hold on. This is what I would do. Sorry, it's a Matt Riddle autograph, but this is what I would do. I literally, like if this is my phone and AJ Lee is hugging with Bailey, I get one of these grabbers and I'd be like this. Hey, I ain't putting my hand anywhere near their face. Move out of the way, dude. Like I literally would I put the grabber in their face. Could you sign this? Don't ask me why I had a Matt Riddle autograph in front of me. That's the only way you stop psychos. Be a little psycho yourself. I'm glad at what CM Punk did. That guy fucking ran to TMZ is toxic. I never liked TMZ. Never liked TMZ. TMZ now, you hear, they want to pay people money to give them dirt for anything. Fuck them. We're going to wrap this up in about 10, 15 minutes because we're over time now. How would I approach a wrestler? This has been asked to me all the time. Same way I act when I see celebrities or actors, actresses. I read the room. There's been many instances over the years seeing famous people in restaurants, see them at, parties. And, usually what I'll do in a restaurant is I'll watch and see if anybody else approaches the person. And if that person is just not having it, don't even think about it. There was a couple of times at wrestling convention we went to, big event, that I walked to an area outside and I don't remember which wrestler it was, but they were on the phone in a corner talking to someone. And I thought about it for a second to go up to the person, but then I was like, just go outside. And I had to make a phone call myself. And then when a few people were approaching the person, they would sign autographs. I just be like, I just said, hey, how's it going? But honestly, if I see someone in an airport, which I haven't, if that person is with family, they have the earbuds on, or they're on their phone, or they're looking down, you could tell when someone doesn't want to be bothered. But if other people are approaching the person and the person is receptive and being friendly about it, I would probably just go up to the person and just compliment them. Just, hey, how you doing? And that's it. One of the ones that I remember, don't ask me why, but a lot of you know this story already, when I met Big Pussy from The Sopranos. We went to this fucking restaurant that my father was very good friends with the owner, and one table next door is fucking Big Pussy. And, he's sitting there at the dinner table, and I think my father had asked the waiter, he's like, see what he's drinking. My father sent over a drink, and he picked up the glass, he said, salute, and he was very friendly. And he walked over to our table and he started mingling. And how I always remember this was, it was the same week that he was accused of pushing his girlfriend out of a moving car. If anybody remembers that story. He came over and took pictures and talked to him a little bit. And I think he had said to me and my brothers, like, you watch The Sopranos? I'm like, no. I was like, never been a fan of Sopranos. And my father was very close to, what's that guy? Nicky, what's that guy's name? The fucking crazy hair. I always show the pictures of him with my mother. Who's the guy from The Sopranos? I think it's Nicky. Is that his name? You know, the one with the big sideburns. What's that guy's name? Oh, Paulie Walnuts. Nicky. Nicky's my brother's name. Paulie Walnuts. Very close friend of my family. You know, my father especially. You know, like if I'm at like a party and everybody's mingling, that's different. But if so, you could feel when someone just doesn't want to be bothered. You know, you got to just use common sense. If somebody's walking in an airport and they're preoccupied, especially if they're with family, no. I don't care how much of a fan you are of that person. You got to just read the room and use a little common sense. I mean, I remember I always told this story with R-Truth. Back like 25 years ago, we went to an indie show in Astoria, Queens. It was myself, Mad Zombie, Brian Damage, someone else. Might have been Timmy Arson, the ECW Zombie. And we were all hanging out outside, and R-Truth walks outside. And he was standing on the side by himself, and we wanted to go over and say hello, because we were a fan of his work. And, I don't remember if it was Matt Zombie or somebody went up to him, and he walks up to us like, anybody got a Marlboro? So I don't know who gave him a cigarette or whatever, but next thing you know, we were just hanging out and he was smoking cigarettes and everything. So, you just got to read the room and see, if somebody wants to be sociable or not. So, but yeah, that's the true story about Big Pussy, man. That's how I always remember the story, because I did an episode of Minority Report. That I do remember. And somebody said on that night, they're like, he just pushed his girlfriend out of a moving car. I was like, oh, I had no idea. It's true. Tristan, as far as the storyline with Hornswoggle and Vince, I loved it when they turned the lights off and we thought Vince was beating him up. That was one of my favorite moments. There's an old episode of our show covering that in real time, and it warmed my heart. Kev thought I was a psycho, but I was like, it warmed my heart to just having the lights turned off and pretending that Vince McMahon was beating up a midget. Not that I had anything against midgets, but I was not a fan of Hornswoggle. One of my earliest days of photoshopping, if some of you remember, there was an episode of Raw where DX was in the back with Hornswoggle, and Triple H, I think, pointed to Hornswoggle, and I photoshopped a sword into Triple H's hand, and it looked like he put a sword up to Hornswoggle's neck. I still have that photo. One of my early days of photoshopping, man, used to always Photoshop any attacks on Hornswoggle. So, all right, let's start bringing this home. Yeah, you just listen. You just got to read the room, man. Don't get me wrong. I mean, you might see someone that you're a big fan of. And if it's their private time, here, this is a great one. Johnny Depp. This is a true story. You want to look up part of it, you can find it online. There's no way I can make up this story this quickly. Johnny Depp did a movie way back when called Donnie Brasco. All right. At the time, there was a restaurant in Queens. I don't remember the name of the restaurant. It wasn't Butterfingers. I can't remember right now. But I had my engagement party there in 1998, or 97 and 98. And this is the first time I got married. It was annulled, it was erased. But when we were going there, we were going to meet with the owner about doing our party. So long story short, they were going to do a scene in this restaurant with Johnny Depp. And the night we were supposed to go, the owner calls my father and says, could you come like an hour later? And my father's like, why? He's like, Johnny Depp is here and, he doesn't want to be bothered. They reserved like the back room for Johnny Depp. It's like, yeah, no problem. So we all went out to eat. Like an hour later, we go to the restaurant, and Johnny Depp is still there. And he's there with his entourage in the back, like 2 tables down from where we were. And long story short, I think it was my father that said, hey, my kids want to meet Johnny Depp. And the waiter said, he doesn't want to be bothered. And that was it. That was it. If any of you that's on my Patreon, you've seen the video of the movie The Good Shepherd that featured, I think, Ben Affleck and I don't remember who else, Joe Pesci was in it. They filmed movie scenes right across the street from my dad's house. Robert De Niro rented part of my father's house to put all the equipment in. I have photos of my father with De Niro. I have 40 minutes of footage of me sitting on my parents' stoop, and Robert De Niro's right in front of me producing the movie, sitting in my driveway. And after the movie they were filming the scenes, a lot of you know this story already, that my father, as part of the deal, told Robert De Niro, he's like, listen, like after you film the scenes, I love for my kids, my grandkids, they can meet like Ben Affleck, whoever it was. I remember the other names. But Matt Damon, excuse me, not Ben Affleck, Matt Damon, Joe Pesci and stuff. And he's like, yeah, no problem, no problem. So they do the scenes. I filmed 40 minutes. There's 40 minutes of my personal home video on Patreon. And after the scene was over, Matt Damon comes over, hangs out with me, my brother, his 2 kids at the time were like 6 and 7. Everybody is hanging out. Robert De Niro's hanging out. He actually was pretty damn cool. Remember him wearing a Met hat that time. And Joe Pesci fucking crawled into the back seat of a car and pulled away. And we wanted to meet Joe Pesci more than anybody else. And he literally said, yeah, as soon as we do the scene, yeah. And literally while everybody was hanging out with the others, he crawled into the back seat of a car and drove away. And my father was like, asshole. I never liked Joe Pesci after that. But that is true. Some people just don't want to be bothered. You got to just respect their boundaries. You got to read the room. If you see someone famous and they're having a little private moment, especially when you see Bailey and AJ Lee hugging. I mean, if you don't have the smarts, like, it looks like they're not going to see each other for a while, let them have their private moment. And after they hug, hey, Bailey, thank you so much. Love your work. We love you. Fine. But the motherfucker literally puts the camera close enough where Bailey touches it. Back off, dude. That's a weirdo. But again, when people are paying an insane amount of money to see someone, they feel that they should get something in return. Hey, I just paid you fucking $1,000 to see you. The least you could do is shake my hand. The least you could do is fucking take a selfie with me. The least you could do is just say thank you. All you had to do is say thank you. Instead of getting back off, dude. No, that guy deserved getting slapped. So, yeah, like a clown. He thought he was amusing us. Like a clown. He fucking drove away. Listen, it's not a Patreon grab. Believe me, if people aren't going to sign up on Patreon just to get the DTKC library going back 20-something years, 40 minutes of the Good Shepherd video is not going to matter. Although maybe one day I'll share it on a Sunday night. You guys want to see it? I mean, I'll share it. It's me filming 40 minutes of them filming scenes of the Good Shepherd. And it's bizarre. Robert De Niro is literally sitting on my driveway right in front of me. And I'm sitting there. And it's funny because you see all the neighbors like all flooding that area, trying to like get a glimpse. And meanwhile, you see my mother, my father, my brother, my nieces, and they're literally all like right around him. And he gets up. He's like, can I get a glass of water? And my father's like, God. My father didn't get an water. Robert De Niro went to my father's house and got the water himself. Another one. Here's another one. There's another good one. Back in the late 80s, when I lived in Middle Village with my family, a doorbell rings. And a lot of you know this story too. It was a limousine. And Robin Williams was in the limousine. Now, here's a little grown-up Don Tony story that some of you might be fascinated with if you know anything about where I live. In Queens, New York, there used to be a rumor of a house that was bought by Al Pacino. People used to call it the Pacino House. And it was in Middle Village, Queens. And back in the mid-'80s, late 80s, people used to always say, yeah, the Pacino House, the Pacino House. Truth is, it was our house, but my father redid the house. In fact, I had an awesome picture in my computer, but I can't really show you right now. I mean, you could see like the background, but if you look at the background, you could see that the house is pretty fucking big, but they called it the Pacino House. So long story short, Robin Williams was filming a movie, and I think it's the movie about school. I think it was that movie. And he was driving around Queens looking for locations where he could film the scene from. And somehow someone said, check out the Pacino House. So one day I'm home and the doorbell rings. My mother answers the door. And I didn't go to the door. I must have been like in my bedroom or something. And my mother, I hear her scrambling, calling the phone to my father. It's like, babe, you got to get home. You got to get home. Robin Williams is here. And I'm like, what? And I literally walked into the dining room area, and there's Robin Williams with like 2-3 people in suits. And I'm like, holy shit, I got to tell my friends. And my mother's like, I'll fucking crack you over the head with a belt if you go tell your friends. What happened was he wanted to talk to my father about possibly using the inside of our house for a scene for that movie. So took my father about 20 minutes to get home. He gets home, he meets with Robin Williams and a couple of movie people or whatever. And it ends up that my father said no. But they wanted to do a scene where a couple of kids were like playing catch in the street, and they wanted to do the movie scene and everything. And I was devastated. My brother was devastated. Like, Dad, what are you, stupid? What are you, crazy? He wants to do it. The thing was, they wanted to knock walls down, build it the way they wanted to, pay my father the money, and then my father would build it back, like knock a couple of walls down. My father, I'm not doing that. But that is a true story too. My parents have the pictures somewhere. We took pictures with Robin Williams and everything. I don't remember the name of the movie, but I know maybe Dead Poet Society. Someone said that. All I know is it was a movie had to do with something with school. They wanted to do a scene where there was kids playing catch in the front of the house, and somebody pulls up and they go inside the house, and they wanted to knock a car. They wanted to do that with The Good Shepherd. The scene that they filmed on my block with the Robert De Niro film originally wanted to use our house. But again, they wanted to knock down walls. They wanted to change some things because they wanted the house to look like 1960s. And my parents' house don't look like 1960s. So my father's like, that's too much work. So Robert De Niro and his agent's like, can we at least use your garage, to store the equipment? And my father's like, yeah, no problem. He's like, yeah, you could use the house, do whatever you want. I just don't want anything touched. So in return, part of it was, my father got paid, but my father wanted everybody to meet us. So they're like, yeah, no problem. So it's true stories. From what I remember from Robin Williams, very nice man, very quiet. Didn't say much, but I do remember vividly them standing in the hallway of my house looking outside, and that's where they were like, yeah, we can have them playing catch, not us, but whatever they were going to have, like playing catch in the front. And they really thought that that they were going to use it. And my father said no. That is a true story. I'm going to talk about the Hogan documentary tomorrow. Not going to review it, but I will give overall thoughts with it. I will tell you this right now. I'm a little disappointed in Brooke Hogan. Brooke didn't take part in it. She had the opportunity to, and she could have corrected or filled in some of the holes that was left behind, and she chose not to. So unfortunately, in my opinion, even though I think that she's come off as the most sane Hogan of them all, I think, Brooke, the minute that you ignore the phone calls and you don't take part in it, you have no right to say that the documentary was incomplete and a lot of things were inaccurate and they ignored this and they totally wrote me off. You lose that opportunity. When you decide you're not even going to return calls, you lose that opportunity. So she's getting a lot of press right now for what she said on Bubba the Love Sponge. And to be honest with you, I don't have any pity for her because she had the opportunity to repair some of what was portrayed on that documentary, and she chose not to. And honestly, as they say in wrestling, you fucked up. You fucked up. Yeah, if you enjoyed this episode, throw a thumbs up. I would greatly appreciate it. I would greatly appreciate it. And definitely enjoyed tonight's episode. Funny thing is, we were not planning on talking about releases. We knew they were coming. You know, we talked about over the last couple of weeks that, you know, if you follow the last couple of years, you do get releases right after Mania. You know, in closing, again, you know, a lot of the names do not surprise me. Some I think was a little bit surprising. Kyrie Sane by far. I thought Alistair Black and Zelina would have been given a little more time. But a lot of the others, you know, really doesn't surprise me all that much. But I noticed people making a lot of big deal about Tyra May Steele being let go. I get it, she's 33 already, but, you know, there's plenty of time for some of the LFG stars to, you know, rebuild a career. You know, it's almost like, okay, you got your foot in the door. You got a taste of what could be coming. So now go ahead and work. You know, do the grind. You know, we're not going to do the grind for you. You know, go out there and show that you really want this, and we'll bring you back in the future. You know, telling someone who's 23, 24, 25 years old that you're being let go, but I just started. You know, you know what I mean? Like, they have plenty of time to do, you know, build. You know, I almost feel like this. I think some people got too consumed in the reality part of LFG, the TV show. How could you release her? She just won season. No, because this is what WWE is. They're an entertainment company. You were entertained. And now they feel, well, you know, she's not progressing the way she was good enough to win the season, but, you know, she's not progressing as well as we should. So we'll cut her loose. She really wants it. You know, she'll work on the indies. She'll get a little bit behind her, and we'll bring her back in the future. And if she doesn't want it, thank you for season 1. You know, thank you for the time you gave us. You know, we got a little, you know, from you, and that's it. Bye-bye. WWE does not have to hold their hand up until the day they retire. So the people that are really going a little bit overboard about the LFG and the Evolve releases, I think they need to have a Snickers. I think they need to have a Snickers bar. So, my friends, yeah, and Tyra May Steele's been there since 2022. So, you know, you get to the point where, my God, you know, it's 3-4 years already. You know, okay, show us that you really want it, and here's your test. You know, I think some people are making too big of a deal with it. I think some of these names, we kind of saw it coming. We were hoping that it wouldn't come. But I will say one other thing in closing. I think this is very important for me to say. I'm sure you've all come across these scholars on social media that are like, why is everybody so surprised? We get releases every year. Do you know this is coming? So why are people so shocked? I say this to those dumb Polacks out there. Every TV show gets canceled. Every sports player, for the most part, eventually gets released. Most. There's always turnover in almost anything that we follow. It doesn't mean that you can't be disappointed at some people you were hoping would have been used better, or you were frustrated like the Wyatt Six, that as things are going down, you're like, why are they why are they not using them? Why are they using them so shitty? Why are they doing this? Why are they doing this? And you realize that you're frustrated and there's nothing you could do about it. And the wrestlers could only do so much. So sure, there's releases every year, but that doesn't mean that you can't be emotionally involved with the release or reactive to the releases that happen. You get a TV show that gets canceled, you get someone that doesn't get re-signed, you get some in any type of entertainment, and you're very disappointed. Wow, they let that person go. Shit, a favorite sports player. I can't believe they didn't re-sign that person. Well, people lose their jobs every day. People get released every day. That makes no sense at all. So every schmuck that out there that tried to throw in your face, why are you so shocked there's releases every year? Tell that person to go fuck themselves. Because that you don't just write off, well, everybody gets released. Eventually, it's just a matter of time. You should get used to it now. Fuck you. It's like when someone dies. Everybody dies. When someone you really appreciated or enjoyed or admired dies, you're not supposed to shed a tear because everybody dies. When you see people write that, just tell them to go fuck off. Because I saw that repeatedly since Friday, and I'm like, I don't say nothing on social media anymore because I know that unless I post serious stuff or dog pictures, most people just ignore it, but those people out there, just ignore those people. Ignore those people. They're not worthy of your aggravation. So I don't know how I came up with that voice. You know what I think I got it from, for real? I'll say this, closing it out. I think I watched like a What Culture video. I mean, there's some of the worst videos on YouTube. Top 10 of this, worst gimmicks of all time. And you know that these people, like their parents weren't even sexually active when some of these wrestlers were performing. And they do these countdowns that they know are awful. And they do it on purpose because they know they'll get a negative reaction. And on YouTube, just get a reaction. Even when you post on X, people intentionally post things wrong so they can have 10,000 people. Dude, that's wrong. Dude, you got the name wrong. Dude, that's not right. Dude, you should delete this. Dude, take this down now. Dude. And you notice how they never take it down. Even when a news outlet in wrestling posts something wrong, they could literally 10 minutes later, my bad, delete it and repost the corrected one. No, they'll just leave it. Because you'll always get people, and they won't even read the correction. They'll just look at the original post like, bro, that's wrong. Bro, how could you keep this up? Bro, that's fucked up. Bro, that's not right. And they're like, wow, look how much engagement we're getting. It's all about engagement. So when you see shit like that, it's like, I realize now people intentionally post shit up there just for a reaction. So I remember watching recently like a What Culture or Shitskeeda, something, and whoever it was had an international accent. And I remember just listening to this voice and I'm like, I could only imagine the man or the woman that had the pleasure of sleeping with this person and just listening to this verse and going, the top 10 worst gimmicks in history. And it's like they're just like reading from a wiki page. And you see millions of views and people like, this list sucks. Or what are you talking about? That was an awesome gimmick. And you realize they don't give a shit. They just, and ever since I heard that, I was like, that's like the poster child of just awful. Like whenever, the top 10. So to me, that is the quintessential example of a douchebag. So that's why whenever you hear me use that voice, it's the equivalent of just a douchebag. It just gets under your skin. And unfortunately, you got these assholes that do that and whatever. That is how I originally got that voice. But I am officially out for this evening. So I want to thank you all once again for spending your time, whether it's live or in the archive. I tell you, I'll be honest with you, today's kind of easy and fun because we don't have to do much of a synopsis. We focused on 3 main topics. So I'm in a jet. I will be live tomorrow, right after Raw, right here. Same bat place, same bat channel, just a different time. we've been averaging about 10:40 p.m. Eastern. That's when Raw usually finishes. We'll see what transpires. Obviously, we got call-ups. Obviously, we got some shifts in storylines. Based on the releases, other than Kyrie Sane, you won't see much else different on television. I wonder what the over and under on signs being confiscated tomorrow because of Kyrie Sane. I think that would probably be something that we'll see. But I will be live right here on YouTube, youtube.com/DonTony. And I just want to thank you all for your support as always. Just one last request. I know everyone does it. I don't do it enough, obviously, but if you enjoyed the show, give it a thumbs up. That sends a message to YouTube that you enjoyed the show. If you know anyone else out there that aren't What Culture that might enjoy the show, just let them know about it. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe. You know, it'd be great before I fucking turn 60 if we could hit 50,000 subscribers. I think it'd be pretty damn cool to have a little gray plaque in the back. And no, I won't fucking bribe people in Calcutta, India to get me 15,000 subscribers so I could get my plaque. And I won't go on eBay and buy someone else's. So, you know, maybe one day we'll hit 50,000. But next week we'll converse a little bit about what we do next to advance our brand a little bit further. I got some ideas. I'll share a few. And I'm very curious to see what your feedback is, because a lot of you who join me, obviously will definitely poll our Patreon family and subscribers, especially YouTube, because you guys are the ones that tune in live. And we'll see what we do next. So we definitely can do more. It's only a matter of what we do more. And not in competition with anybody, you know, so I want to make that clear. We're not trying to screw anyone else. We're just trying to advance what we do. So much love, everyone. Be well. And I will catch you all on the next one. Ciao.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a podcaster. For me to live any other way was nuts. To me, those goody-good people who worked shitty jobs for bum paychecks and took the subway to work every day and worried about their bills were dead. I mean, they were suckers. They had no balls. If I wanted something, I just took it. I ran everything. I paid the bills. I paid the host. I even paid the masked maniac. Everybody had their hands out. Everything was for the taking. We always called each other good fellas. You would always hear from somebody. You're gonna like Don Tony. He's all right. He's a good fella. He's one of us. But if you're part of my crew, nobody ever tells you they're gonna get rid of you. It doesn't happen that way. There weren't any arguments or curses like in the movies. See, your haters come with smiles. They come as your friends, the people who've claimed they care the most for your life. And now that's all over. And that's the best part. Today everything is different. There's lots of action. I don't have to wait around for everything like everyone else. Oh, I didn't get the vaccine? Fuck you, vaccine me. Oh, your delivery guy has COVID? Fuck you, feed me. Right after I moved here, I ordered egg noodles and ketchup, and I got spaghetti with meat sauce. I'm no longer an average nobody, while they get to live the rest of their lives like a bunch of schnooks.